Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto and Hinata Secret Anbu Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Hiruzen Sarutobi was sitting in the Hokage's office and let out a long sigh while looking out the window. Even though it was already 4 o'clock in the morning, the entire village of Konoha was still wide awake. Several hours earlier, the village was attacked by the Kyuubi, the nine-tailed demon fox, and though the battle was short, many people died in the attack and there was a lot of damage. Even now there were still several fires around the larger civilian areas and all shinobi were hard at work putting them out with water-based ninjutsu. Officially it was labeled a natural disaster, but he knew where the Kyuubi really came from, of course. It escaped from its imprisonment when Kushina Uzumaki, the wife of his successor Minato Namikaze and the previous Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, underwent childbirth. For the last couple of weeks he and Minato went over the possibility of the seal loosening and how to prevent it from happening. It seemed, however, that their precautions weren't good enough and the demon managed to escape after all, killing its container in the process. Alongside Kushina, his own wife Biwako, who acted as the midwife, and several of the most senior Anbu also died. He could still feel the terrible killing intent and power from the beast when it attacked Konoha, and he could only imagine what his wife must have felt when it escaped and attacked them at point-blank range. His only solace is that the Kyuubi would have killed them quickly and saw no point in making them suffer. After the beast escaped, however, it made a straight line for Konoha itself and launched a surprise attack in the middle of the night. Its first target happened to be a very large civilian area since it was located in the center of the city while most of the ninjas live in their respective clan compounds and apartments closer to the edge. It took several minutes before most shinobi were ready to counterattack. But even that would have been a futile attempt had it not been for the fourth Hokage. After several minutes of desperately trying to stop the beast without much success, the fourth himself appeared on the battlefield alongside his summoned Gamabunta, the chief toad. He managed to teleport the beast away from the city and seal it away in his newborn son Naruto, thereby saving the town. Unfortunately, he himself died in the summoning process in what looked like the Kyuubi's claw penetrating his upper torso as its last act of defiance before it was sealed away inside Naruto. That was the scene he and two of his Anbu guards found when they reached the safe house Minato teleported the Kyuubi to. So with Minato dead and no successor ready to take his place, Hiruzen found himself once again in his old office with a baby in his arms and a village in despair demanding actions to be taken. That's why he ordered the Anbu to inform all clan leaders and the elders that there would be an emergency meeting of the council to decide the future of Konoha and little Naruto, who was now sound asleep in his arms, unaware of the events which would now forever be associated with his birthday. "I demand that you kill that demon," said the representative of the civilian population. He looked at Naruto, still asleep despite the rather loud noises in the meeting room, with utter disgust in his eyes. Naruto himself is not the Kyuubi, but merely its container. Sarutobi tried to explain for the 100th time that night, and I will not tolerate killing innocent babies. The Kyuubi is too dangerous, we cannot risk it escaping again. Killing its container is the only way to destroy it for good, yelled the representative, wondering why the Hokage couldn't see reason. The seal of the fourth Hokage will hold the Kyuubi back. I can assure you there is no danger of it escaping again. We will not kill Naruto, and that is final, the third said while slamming his hand on the table, making it clear that the topic was hereby closed. "What do you suggest we do about little Naruto then?" asked Shibi Aburame in the calm and logical tone his clan was known for. "Does he have parents or legal guardians to take him in?" "No, his parents died in the attack today, and he has no other family," the third answered vaguely, not wanting to reveal exactly who his father was. "We can't put him in the orphanage, he's too dangerous." "I refuse it," said the civilian representative, still not entirely convinced that a simple seal can hold back a tailed beast. For the next 2 hours the council debated several possibilities, but all of them were shot down for various reasons. Getting adopted by a civilian family was impossible. Almost everyone lost someone in the attack and nobody would want to adopt the very demon they deemed responsible for it. The clans, while more convinced of the notion that Naruto himself wasn't a demon, weren't really willing to adopt him either. For one, it would be obvious he was adopted since he wouldn't have the clan's bloodline, and thus be unable to use any of their techniques. They also feared the backlash their clan would receive if they adopted a Jinchuriki, though none of them said that aloud, of course. Danzo was willing to raise the child and insisted on turning him into a human weapon like Han and Rashi, the two Jinchuriki from IWA or Killer Bee. The Jinchuriki from Kumo had been in the last war. However, the third was heavily against this idea and insisted that Naruto would not be raised as an emotionless puppet. He was supported by many of the clan heads in this decision. The meeting was reaching a stalemate until suddenly a voice spoke up. "Perhaps I can offer a solution?" The room was instantly silenced, and everyone looked around trying to find the source of the words until they noticed it was one of the Anbu that spoke up. This shocked them since the Anbu, though present at every meeting for security reasons, never once interfered. Most had even forgotten they were even there since they usually stood at the side blending in with the shadows. The third looked at the Anbu that spoke up, a man wearing a mask with a dragon motive, and recognized him as Ryu, the new commander of the ANBU. The previous commander Phoenix alongside 4 of his 5 captains were assigned as one of the guardians of Kushina and were amongst the first to die by the Kyuubi's hands, and Ryu, the 5th captain and now the highest in rank, was named as the new commander despite his young age. Very well, come forward and explain yourself, ordered the Hokage, wondering what the new ANBU commander had to say. Yes, Lord Hokage, Ryu said while bowing politely and stepping forward. I propose that Naruto Uzumaki will be placed in the ANBU headquarters where he will be raised and supervised by the ANBU during his childhood. Ryu said quickly, coming to the point. What? The shock was clearly written on the face of everyone in the room, including the other ANBU who were now beginning to question the sanity of their new commander. Allow me to explain my reasons, Ryu said without flinching. I can assure you I did not propose this lightly. Please explain your reasons for this most unorthodox proposal, Shikaku Nara said, having deemed this whole meeting too troublesome after debating for 2 hours. Of course, Ryu continued in his still calm voice. The civilians demand that the Jinchuriki is put under heavy surveillance, do they not? To make sure the Kyuubi never escapes again? He asked this to the representative of the civilian council, who answered with a quick yes. Well then, what better place than the middle of ANBU headquarters? He will be surrounded at all times by dozens of highly classed ninjas who can interfere immediately should he start to lose control and are skilled enough to kill him if it ever becomes necessary. If the seal ever breaks, we can react immediately and stop the Kyuubi from attacking the village again. The civilian representative had nothing to say against that and only nodded his head towards the masked man. Lord Danzo, he said next, turning towards the heavily bandaged council member, you deem that Naruto should be trained in the way of the ninja so that he may become an asset to our village, correct? The older man only nodded in response. Well, since he will be trained by the ANBU, we can guarantee that he will receive the very best training a young ninja can hope for. Danzo scoffed at that idea. He was sure that his own root organization would be more suited to prepare the boy than the ANBU were, but since root officially didn't exist anymore, he couldn't bring that up in a council meeting. So he reluctantly agreed that the ANBU were the best this village had to offer. And finally, Lord Hokage, he said while turning towards the 3rd Hokage, we can assure you that Naruto will be protected by the very best of this village. No one will harm him during our watch, and he will be allowed to experience as normal a childhood as is possible for someone in his position. Does anyone have any objections to this proposal? The 3rd asked to the people around the meeting room. If not, then I decree that Naruto Uzumaki will now be placed under the care and protection of the ANBU. You are dismissed. The other members of the council left the room one by one until only the 3rd, Ryu and Naruto, still asleep, remained. Ryu, the Hokage suddenly said, why are you doing this, sir? I already explained the logic behind my proposal, Ryu answered. Yes, and you did a fine job of convincing the other members with it. But I sense there is another reason you're not telling me. So once again, why are you doing this? Ryu remained silent for a while until he finally spoke up. It is Kushina, sir. Kushina Uzumaki? The 3rd asked, starting to see where this was going. I was her old teammate, before she got married and retired. Ryu answered. I couldn't just sit back while the council debated about killing her son. My apologies for lying to you and the council, sir. No, it's alright. Sarutobi let out a small smile while he said this. To be honest, I'm starting to see more and more merit to the idea. I'll give you a week to make the preparations, and then I'll leave Naruto in your care. Yes, Lord Hokage, I will begin immediately, Ryu said as he bowed and returned to the ANBU headquarters. So it's babysitting? Asked Salamander, one of the newly appointed captains of ANBU. We are tasked with taking care of the new Jinchuriki of the Ninetales and to guarantee his safety as well as make sure the seal will hold, Ryu explained. But this Naruto, he is still a baby, right? He is a newborn, yes, and we have to feed him, change his diapers, make sure he sleeps and watch over him at night. That is how one generally takes care of a baby, Ryu said. So it's babysitting? Salamander asked again. Yes, Ryu let out a sigh as he surrendered the point. During the first 5 years of his life we will for all intents and purposes be nothing more than babysitters. Afterwards we are responsible for his training until he graduates and becomes a genin. Why are we responsible? Just let the academy handle him, Hawk, another newly appointed captain said. Don't be ridiculous. You know damn well that without specialized training at home it is near impossible to pass the academy by yourself. The low number of successful civilian ninjas is all the proof you need. There is a reason that 80% of our forces come from established clans even though the clans are only 10% of our population, Ryu said. Besides, it is crucial to the safety of the village that Naruto learns how to handle all the extra energy the Kyuubi will give him. His chakra network is already as big as that of a 3-year-old, and you just can't learn that level of control in the academy. I still don't like it, Salamander said. I didn't join the ANBU so I could do goddamn babysitting missions again. This is a D-rank mission for crying out loud, let the genin handle it. It also an order from both the Hokage and the council, so you will do what you are told. Ryu said, making it clear he didn't want to discuss it any further. Besides, it might be a D-rank in nature but we are getting full-time A-rank pay for it, so stop complaining. We can use the extra funds. So how will we do this then? Asked Deer, one of the 2 female captains alongside Crab. We can't exactly let a baby sleep in the barracks, can we? Officially the Hokage gave him apartment 101 of the iceberg, which means that as far as official channels are involved, Naruto will be living by himself," Ryu said. "And since he will be a tenant of the iceberg, he is of course allowed to use its public facilities, including the library, training rooms, blacksmith, and lounge. The barracks themselves and the meeting rooms are off limits, however, since those officially don't exist unless you actually join the NBU. So he will stay in the iceberg, but he won't actually join the NBU." Deer asked. "Of course not. He's a baby, for crying out loud. In what universe does having a child join the NBU make any sense? He won't just magically become Jonin level because we train him for a while," Ryu said, while starting to lose his patience with his new captains and their stupid questions. Everyone thought about that for a bit. The iceberg was the unofficial nickname of the headquarters of the ANBU forces, named because over 2/3 of its content was hidden below the surface. Officially, it was just a regular apartment complex owned by the village and overseen by the current Hokage. Unofficially, however, it housed the living quarters of the ANBU force alongside plenty of training areas and other facilities, most of which were hidden below the surface. Never before had an outsider seen the true inside of the iceberg, let alone been given a permanent room there. To say they were shocked at the news of their new neighbor would be an understatement. Anyway, as for the schedule, each team will be responsible for Naruto for 1 week before the next team takes over. The order will be Team Salamander, Team Hawk, Team Wolf, Team Deer, and Team Crab. Afterwards, Salamander's turn begins again. Since Naruto won't actually arrive for another week, Salamander's first task is to make sure apartment 101 is prepared. Any questions? Ryu gave everyone their orders and his 5 captains left the room to inform their team of the new mission they were assigned. 1 week later, the Hokage entered the iceberg with a sleeping baby in his arms to take him to his new home. He hoped he made the right decision for Naruto's future. After they left, 2 members of Team Hawk entered the room and started their first watch. Little did they know that the ANBU would never be the same again for years to come. It wasn't until a few weeks after the attack that it became apparent that things would never be the same again in the village of Konoha. At first, everyone was still too shaken up and didn't quite realize how big the damage really was. But after the initial state of shock subsided, they began to see that things they once took for granted were now changed forever. This was especially true for the ANBU. Not only did their entire chain of command change almost overnight, they also had to deal with a new neighbor in their headquarters. This neighbor was Naruto Uzumaki, the village's newest Jinchuriki. Since both his parents died in the attack, the orphaned boy was placed under the protection and care of the ANBU. However, many ANBU soon found out that taking care of a baby was a whole lot different from their regular line of work, especially since Naruto seemed to have a near infinite appetite and refused to sleep during the night hours, opting instead to cry for more food. This drove many of the otherwise highly trained and skilled ninja up the wall, and many swore to never have kids of their own after their first shift ended. But eventually things settled down, and soon the ANBU grew accustomed to Naruto's presence in the iceberg. They even managed to work out a workable schedule where a few volunteers, mostly Kunoichi, the one silver-haired ANBU in a dog mask, volunteered as well, took after him most of the time. It was agreed that the ANBU who took care of Naruto were allowed to remove their masks during that time and be themselves when they were with the blonde. There were 3 reasons for this. First of all, Naruto was frightened by the masks, and it was a lot easier to get him calm if they simply removed them. Secondly, an ANBU walking around town with a baby caught a lot of unwanted attention from potential enemy spies, and finally the ANBU themselves liked being normal people for a few hours before going back to their alter ego as faceless soldiers. The third Hokage also dropped by for a few hours whenever he was there for ANBU business, which happened almost every day, even when most of the time he never even made it to Ryu's office to discuss the things he was supposed to be there for in the first place. Everyone knew better than to comment on this though. The ANBU, however, had to stay sharp at all times since the rest of the village did not share their views on the boy. During the first 6 months alone, there were 6 assassination attempts at young Naruto's life. They tried to poison his food on 5 separate occasions, and one man was even foolish enough to try to sneak in at night and kill him in his sleep. Tried being the word here, since he didn't get very far before the ANBU noticed the civilians sneaking in their own headquarters. These attempts at Naruto's life stopped rather abruptly once the ANBU executed the would-be assassins in public under charges of treason. After this rough start, the next few years went by rather smoothly, and Naruto grew quite accustomed to the presence of the ANBU in his flat. His room also changed quite a lot since the first year, and now housed a small bed with orange sheets. Somehow he slept a lot easier with that color than others, a desk with several storybooks about ninjas, a closet with his clothes, and a small chest with his toys and birthday gifts from the Hokage and the ANBU, who long since stopped seeing Naruto as just a mission and more as part of their family. Especially Kakashi, the ANBU known as Dog, took a liking to the blonde and looked after him a lot more than the rest. It was on one of these days that Kakashi took care of Naruto. "How is he doing?" asked Kakashi to Badger once he entered flat 101 to begin his shift. "He's asleep now," grumbled Badger, "but he was quite a handful to get into bed. Apparently you promised to take him to the park today." The kid couldn't stop talking about it. "Heh, sorry about that," said Kakashi while rubbing the back of his head with his left hand. "I hope he wasn't too difficult." "Nothing I can't handle," said Badger with a smirk. "You, on the other hand, are about to have quite an eventful day once he wakes up. I hope you aren't too tired from your last mission to the land of tea, because you will need all the energy you can spare. Badger said while chuckling. You didn't? Asked Kakashi with fear in his tone. Didn't what? Asked Badger, trying to sound innocent and suppressing the smirk that threatened to cover his entire face. I just promised you'd play ninja with him, that's all. He quickly stood up and ran past Kakashi towards the door. Have a nice day, he said on the way out while Kakashi cursed his bad karma. Playing ninja was Naruto's favorite game, and since a short while it was also the initiation ritual the ANBU gave to the new recruits. The basic idea of the game was to give young children some basic form of training disguised as a series of games and to keep it up as long as the child remained interested. It was designed in such a way that the older ninja playing with the child had quite a hard workout themselves. That way they could keep up with their own training as well. It was very popular amongst the clans, and many ninja, especially those who had younger brothers or nephews, first frowned at the seemingly easy task of entertaining a kid for an hour or two. The catch, however, was that unlike other children, who stopped playing after 1 or 2 hours, Naruto simply did not grow tired of the game, and kept demanding more. And thanks to his unwanted tenant giving him extra stamina and energy, the game could easily last 8 to 9 hours before he wanted to stop for some ramen. Many rookies were left broken after the first day of playing ninja with the hyperactive blonde, not even able to lift a finger, and a few even quit ANBU altogether, saying they couldn't take it. Kakashi sighed and silently cursed once again at Badger's idea of a joke. Oh well, better get started then, he thought to himself, and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for the two of them. Breakfast is ready, he shouted towards Naruto's room, and a few seconds later the blonde boy came running towards the kitchen wearing black pajamas with the leaf symbol stitched in white on the back. Good morning, Kakashi, Naruto said to his favorite guardian. Are we going to the park today and play ninja again? He asked hopefully. Sure, Naruto, Kakashi replied. We'll go right after breakfast, so eat up. Kakashi then followed his own advice and ate his breakfast because he had a feeling he'd be needing all the energy he could get. After breakfast, Naruto got dressed and he and Kakashi went to the park at the edge of the village to spend the day. Because it was a warm summer day, the park was crowded with several families, mostly civilian, though there were several of the smaller clans as well who also gathered to enjoy the nice day. Naruto and Kakashi found a nice spot under a tree that wasn't yet taken, and soon the little blonde ran off to play with the other kids. Kakashi was secretly relieved by this, since it meant that Naruto would at least give him some time to relax before he insisted they began the torture session, as the game was sometimes called in ANBU circles. Smiling at his good fortune, he started reading a book of a new series called Ika Ika that just came out, and wondered if it would be any good. He only bought it because Jiraiya had written it after all. Meanwhile, Naruto reached the playground in the center of the park and started playing with the other children. Several of the parents tensed a little at first and kept a close eye on him, but the presence of the ANBU kept them at bay, so nobody interfered or dared yell insults at Naruto. And after a few minutes of nothing happening, even they started to relax a little and decided to let the kids play their games instead of worrying. Meanwhile, Naruto was playing a game of hide and seek and was frantically searching for a good hiding spot, while one of the other kids, a boy his age with brown hair and a dog, was counting to 100. Maybe behind the vendors, he thought to himself. No, that's too obvious. He looked around the park some more, looking for a good spot until his eyes fell on some bushes and trees at the end of the park. Perfect, he thought to himself, and ran up to his new hiding spot. Eventually Naruto found a decent spot in a tree and tried to stay hidden as good as he could. He'll never find me here, he thought to himself, and tried to stay silent, since he learned from the ANBU that making sound is the easiest way to give away your location, no matter how good you are hidden. After a few minutes he suddenly heard some commotion behind him, and he carefully looked down from his hiding spot. There he saw 3 young boys around his age surround a small girl with pupilless lavender eyes and short indigo hair who was being pushed around by them. Bullies, he thought. I'd better help that girl out. He carefully moved to the other side of the tree so he could surprise them from above. Another trick he picked up from one of the ninja games, and kept listening to the conversation below. Look at those freaky eyes, the biggest of the boys said. She must be a Hyuga. I bet she is just as arrogant as that Niji guy, his friend said. All Hyugas are the same. Rich girl here probably thinks she is better than us, huh? Said the biggest kid. I bet she thinks we are beneath her. He pushed the girl on her knees and laughed when she started crying. No, I do not think that, the girl on the ground said quietly while sobbing. Please, just leave me alone. What was that? Leave you alone? The third guy said. Are we not worthy enough to be around a mighty Hyuga? It's not like that. That's not what I meant. Tried the girl on the ground. Yeah, right. I think the lying bitch needs a lesson. The big kid stepped forward and prepared to slap the defenseless girl on the ground. Suddenly he cried out as he felt a stab of pain coming from his nose and there was blood trickling down his face. What was that? He yelled. He noticed the pine cone at his feet and looked up. There he saw a blonde kid with blue eyes looking straight at him from one of the trees with another pine cone in his hands. Who are you? Asked the biggest kid, while keeping one hand over his now bleeding nose. I am Naruto Uzumaki and I am here to kick some ass, yelled Naruto while dropping down from the tree and throwing the second pine cone at the bully's face. Now let the girl go, you bastards. Boss, are you okay? Asked one of the other kids. I'm fine, He just caught me by surprise, that's all. Now go teach that wannabe hero a lesson. The two kids seemed to regain their confidence and ran at Naruto ready to beat him up. Be careful, yelled the girl on the ground, who managed to regain her footing now that the two bullies no longer had her pinned down. Meanwhile, the first of the two kids reached Naruto and was about to hit him with a wild punch. Naruto meanwhile remembered the taijutsu lessons Kakashi taught him the last few weeks. Always keep a cool head in battle and anticipate your opponent's actions. Naruto remembered Kakashi's words and sidestepped the wild attack so that he was now positioned behind the bully. Strike hard and decisive. Naruto kicked at the bully's legs from behind and watched him crash to the ground. Always mind your surroundings. He quickly spun around and just barely managed to block a punch from the second bully that was behind the first one. Use your opponent's strength against themselves. He quickly grabbed the fist that tried punching him and using the bully's momentum threw him around right into his friend, knocking both of them out at once. Keep your eye on the mission at all times. He turned around again to look at the girl and came face to face with the biggest bully who was glaring at him. If the opponent is on the defensive, keep the pressure on, and don't give them a chance to recover. Naruto ran towards the biggest kid and tried to take him down with a combination of punches and kicks he practiced earlier. Unfortunately, the third bully was stronger than his friends and, though he lacked style, managed to overpower Naruto with brute force alone and threw him on the ground with a nasty punch in the stomach. Damn, I forgot the lesson about not being overconfident. Naruto muttered to himself. He saw the bigger kid move towards him with an evil grin on his face. You're going to get it now, runt. It's payback time for breaking my nose. Naruto gulped and tried to find a way out of his predicament until he saw the girl stand up behind the bully with new confidence in her eyes. Leave him alone, she said without stuttering like she did before. Oh yeah? And what are you going to do about it, huh? The bully asked mockingly without even looking at her, a mistake which would cost him dearly. I said leave him alone. Suddenly the veins around her pupilless eyes became visible as she lowered her body in a taijutsu stance Naruto had never seen before. 8 trigrams, 16 palms. The girl shouted while moving gracefully, almost like a dancer, towards the bully's exposed backside. She moved her hands in a blurry and struck his back repeatedly on various parts. Naruto frowned at the attack. He could tell those hits weren't exactly strong, more like gentle tabs really, and he knew from first-hand experience that the bully could take much stronger punches and remain standing. Imagine his surprise when instead of shrugging the attack off like he expected, the bully's eyes became glassy and he fell forwards with a loud thud. He saw the bigger kid was unconscious. How the hell did she do that? He thought. Thank you for helping me, he heard the girl say and turned his head towards her. Her veins had returned to normal though her eyes were still pupilless. Naruto gave her a wide grin. I should be the one thanking you. How did you take out that bully? That was amazing. You must be really strong, he said excitedly. The girl blushed heavily at the words of praise but managed to let out a small thank you. So what's your name anyway? Naruto asked. I am Naruto. Nice to meet you, Naruto. I am Hinata Hyuga. The girl replied. Nice to meet you too, Hinata, Naruto said with his trademark grin. Hey, me and the other kids are playing games in the park now. Would you like to join us? He stretched his hand out towards her, awaiting her reply. He's asking me to play with him. Maybe he wants to be friends. Hinata thought excitedly to herself. She didn't have many friends and smiled at the idea of playing with other kids, so she took his hand. Yes, I'd like that, she said. They both ran back to the other kids, not realizing two figures were watching them. She is quite impressive for her age. Her father must be proud, Kakashi said to Ko Hyuga, Hinata's guardian. To be honest, I am as surprised as you are, Ko replied. She doesn't usually show this much confidence. In fact, that was the first time she managed to pull off the 16 palms attack. The first time in a combat situation and she already hit all targets? She must have trained that technique a lot then? Kakashi said. No, I mean literally the first time she ever did it. She has never been able to do it successfully before, not even in training. Ko confessed. I wonder if it was that kid who somehow inspired her to do it. The first time she pulls it off and immediately in a combat scenario. Kakashi pondered. That certainly is quite peculiar though not unheard of. Apparently Naruto must have left quite the impression on her to inspire such a change of personality. Talking about Naruto, he didn't do too bad himself, Ko complimented. He took the first 2 down by himself, and did quite a number on the third one as well. If the kid wasn't a head bigger than him, he would have won. That's quite impressive for a kid his age. Which clan does he belong to? He doesn't belong to a clan, Kakashi answered. He is being raised by the Anbu. Oh, I see, Ko replied with a visible shock on his face. He is that Naruto, huh? Yes, he is that Naruto, Kakashi said quite defensively. Is that a problem? Not at all. I was just surprised to see him like this, Ko answered. After all, he has quite the reputation. Nothing but rumors and superstition, Kakashi firmly said. I watched over Naruto his entire life, and there is nothing at all wrong with him. He is just a normal kid. Well, he did came to Lady Hinata's help, even when he obviously didn't know who she was. Nor did he treated her differently when he did know. Ko pondered. Most people wouldn't have jumped into a fight like that. Perhaps I can convince her father to let Hinata play with Naruto more often, After all, she does seem to take a liking to the boy. He chuckled while pointing at the two kids who were still playing with each other. Kakashi couldn't help but smile underneath his mask at the sight. After all, this was the first time Naruto had a friend his own age. Other kids played with him when they visited the park, and some, like that Inuzuka brat, seemed to genuinely like him. But in the end, he never had someone he could truly call a friend. At least not within his own age group. He really hoped Hinata and Naruto could become friends. At the very least, it would hopefully calm him down a bit. After watching them play for another few hours, it was time to go back home. Ko and Kakashi picked them up, and after saying goodbye to each other, Naruto and Hinata quickly followed their respective guardian. Later that night at the Hyuga mansion. Are you sure that's what happened? Hayashi Hyuga, head of the Hyuga clan and father of Hinata, asked. Yes, sir, Ko replied. Hinata managed to subdue her assailant with the 16 palms technique. I should also mention that he was 2 years older than her, and at least a head bigger. And you say that Naruto Uzumaki was there as well? Was he one of her attackers? No, sir, Naruto did not harass Lady Hinata. In fact, he went to help her when he accidentally stumbled upon the scene. He took out 2 other kids that were there as well. He did he? Interesting, I wonder what the Anbu are doing to that kid. He'll definitely be someone to watch out for later, he chuckled. But back to my daughter. Yesterday you said Hinata couldn't do the technique and insisted she needed more time, yet now you say she successfully implemented it in a combat situation. How do you explain this sudden growth? Permission to speak freely, sir? Ko hesitantly asked, knowing he was about to touch a delicate topic. Permission granted, Hayashi said while raising his eyebrow. As her personal teacher, I must say that Hinata definitely has all the talent and skill needed to become a great kunoichi. Her chakra control is excellent, and thanks to her agility and flexibility, she is perfect for the gentle fist style Ko started. However, certain aspects of her personality are holding her back. What do you mean? Hashi asked. As you know, she is quite gentle and rather shy, Ko carefully understated, therefore the traditional training methods aren't really suited for her. She isn't the type that responds well to harsh criticism or direct competition. And some of the elders' efforts to encourage her have had the opposite effect, I'm afraid. Well, what do you suggest then? Hayashi asked. If she doesn't master the training, she will automatically be put in the branch house, you know that. I think I have an idea that would greatly help Lady Hinata, though it is rather unorthodox. Ko carefully picked his words. You can tell me, Hayashi simply stated, not showing anything in his facial expression. Today I observed that Naruto had a rather positive effect on her confidence. Apparently his rather outgoing personality and his actions in trying to help her inspired Lady Hinata to pull of the 16 palms technique when he needed help in turn. His guardian, the Anbu Captain Kakashi, said that Hinata had a similar effect on Naruto and proposed to let them meet more often. Ko stated, perhaps letting them train together would help Lady Hinata overcome her shyness. If not, getting trained by the Anbu has never hurt anyone. This can only improve her technique. She also looks like she really could use a friend. It's not like she has any. Even within the branch house, most won't approach her, Ko taught, though never stated out loud. You're right, Hayashi said, it is rather unorthodox. The elders won't like it, that's for sure. I understand, sir. Please forgive me for bothering you. He nodded and turned to leave. Then again, Hayashi continued as if Ko never said anything. They don't like her current progress either. There have been voices of dropping her from the training already. Truth be told, I was about to ask the Jonin Kurinai Yahi to take over her training, but maybe the Anbu are a better idea. Perhaps we should give your idea a fair chance. If you are correct, then the end result will surely be worth a small breach of protocol. I'll convince the elders and talk to the Hokage. Let's see if this Naruto can really help Hinata get over her shyness. Thank you, sir. Ko bowed politely and left the room. Once on the hallway, he allowed a small smile to appear on his face but quickly suppressed it. Hyugas were trained to hide their emotions after all. A few days later, Anbu Headquarters Training Area 27, Naruto and Kakashi were busy going over the basic taijutsu exercises again when the Hokage cleared his throat to make his presence known. Hey old man, did you came to visit me? Naruto yelled while hugging the Hokage. Hello Naruto-kun. How is your training going? The Hokage asked while returning Naruto's hug. He is making steady progress, Lord Hokage, Kakashi answered in Naruto's place. His taijutsu is pretty good and he is making great progress in throwing shurikens and kunai as well. He can hit stationary targets with 90% accuracy and moving targets with 40%. But I expect those numbers to go up quite a lot by the time he starts the academy. I'm glad to see you are taking your training seriously, the Hokage said. Of course, I'll be the next Hokage after all, Naruto said confidently. Will you now? My, you sure aim high. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? Being Hokage is serious business after all. The Hokage chuckled at Naruto's enthusiasm. Anyway, I have an announcement to make, the Hokage said suddenly, all serious. I'm afraid, Naruto, that you will no longer be able to train one-on-one with Kakashi. What? Why? Naruto shouted with a shock on his face. Sir? Kakashi asked. I don't mind training Naruto. There is no need to stop the sessions on my behalf. Now, not so fast you two, the Hokage said with a small smile. Remember that a good shinobi looks underneath the underneath. I never said you had to stop training now, did I? Huh? Naruto said. because it seemed to him that was exactly what he said. I see, Kakashi stated, you said our one-on-one training sessions would end. That would imply someone else will be joining us. Now since having two teachers at the same time makes no sense, I would have to say you want me to train someone alongside Naruto? Indeed, the Hokage confirmed. In fact, why don't you two meet her right now? She is waiting just outside with her father. As if on cue, Hayashi Hyuga entered the training area with Hinata in tow. The little girl was wondering what they were doing here and why she needed to bring her training outfit with her. If father wants to do a training session, why can't we do it at home like usual? When Naruto spotted Hinata, he immediately yelled out to her, Hey Hinata, are you my new training partner? That's so cool. Training partner? Hinata thought, this can't be right. Father would never let me train outside the clan. But why am I here then? So Naruto, is it? Hayashi said as if he didn't hear the loud shout, I heard you helped my daughter out the other day? Why don't you tell me some more about that? Kakashi frowned. He realized Hayashi technically never agreed to the training yet, and that he was giving Naruto a character test first before making a decision. Because although he was a strict parent, he did care for his daughter, and he wanted to be sure she was in good hands. He expected that he would receive a similar test later, though his would be less secretive. It's a lot harder to fool a jonin than it is a child after all. Naruto, on the other hand, saw no harm in this, and started talking about their day in the park. Kakashi noted with some amusement that his version of the facts was pretty different than how he remembered it. Naruto said that Hinata was fighting 3 kids at once rather than being bullied by them, and that he helped her with the first 2 instead of knocking them out single-handedly. Then the third guy cheated and knocked me down when I wasn't looking instead of him being an idiot who ran head first in his fists. He finished with Hinata defeated him by herself with some really cool attack that totally knocked him out. Well, at least that part was sort of correct. Kakashi waited for Naruto to finish up and was surprised when he kept talking. He spent another 10 minutes describing all the games they played later that day in far more detail than the actual fight Hayashi wanted to know about. In the end, though, Hayashi just smiled to himself. It was obvious that Naruto and his daughter got along great, and if anyone would be able to get her out of her shell, it would be him. His face, however, didn't betray his feelings, and it kept its neutral look throughout the entire story. So Naruto, he suddenly said, I take it you will be starting at the academy next year as well? Yes, sir. Naruto confirmed. Well then, I feel it would be in both your interests if you and Hinata could work together to practice and do your homework. Wouldn't you agree? He asked, already knowing the answer. You mean I can train with Hinata after school? That's so awesome. Naruto almost yelled. Awesome, huh? Hayashi taught. I'd better make sure he keeps focused on training only. Don't want to give the kid ideas about my daughter. That is, of course, if you can keep up, Hayashi said. Only the best training partner is good enough for Hinata. And now to really drive the point home, he almost smirked. Maybe I should ask that Uchiha kid instead. He'll probably be Rookie of the Year. Hayashi pretended to ponder aloud. Hell no! Naruto said, I'm gonna be Rookie of the Year, you'll see. Will you now? Well then you better focus on training a lot, because if you turn out to be a failure, I'll put a stop to these sessions at once. Do you understand? Hayashi said with a stern gaze. He loved to play with people's minds like that. Naruto gulped and nodded. He was determined not to lose his new training partner, and he vowed to become Rookie of the Year. Naruto and Hinata entered the room of their new class and looked around. The room was already filled with several kids Naruto had seen in the park or on the streets from time to time. Most of them were from civilian families, but he also recognized several clan children by their clan's characteristics. A kid with facial markings who brings a little puppy to class? Must be an Inuzuka. A chubby kid who eats potato chips in class. A Kimichi. Next to him, a dark-haired kid who is sleeping? A Nara. Then the girl with a blonde ponytail who sits next to them must be a Yamanaka, he reasoned. He also recognized an Aburame. Hinata was a little freaked out about the insects. Naruto didn't particularly care. Hey Naruto-kun, you're here as well? A familiar voice suddenly said behind him. He looked back and saw Itachi Uchiha, one of the Anbu who looked after him from time to time, standing there alongside a smaller version of himself. You know who this is, brother? Sasuke asked Itachi. Ah yes, let me introduce you to, Itachi said. Naruto, this is Sasuke, my little brother. Sasuke, meet Naruto, the boy I told you about who lives with the Anbu. And you must be Hinata Hyuga, I assume? Yes, I am Hinata. Nice to meet you, Itachi-san, Sasuke-kun. Hinata replied. Sasuke, however, wasn't paying attention to her, and instead looked at Naruto. So this is the Anbu kid, huh? He thought. He heard a lot of stories about him. Some people, like his parents and several civilians, said he was trouble and that he should stay away, while others, like his brother Itachi, said he was just a regular kid and even encouraged them to be friends. Seeing him in person, he was a little disappointed. By now he expected Naruto to be some sort of mythical figure if all the stories he heard were even remotely true, but it looked like he was a normal kid after all. Naruto, Hinata. He nodded politely. He was still an Uchiha after all, and he had to hold up the reputation of his clan. Meanwhile, Itachi had already left without saying a word. He was a busy ninja after all, and he also knew better than to embarrass his baby brother with too much open affection. Uchihas were a clan of warriors, not a clan that needs someone holding their hand on the first day of school. All right, everyone. A voice suddenly shouted. Pick a seat and sit down. Naruto looked to the front of the class and saw a young man in a Chunin flak vest and a scar across his face. Next to him was another man with white hair, also with the flak vest. I am Iruka, the scarred teacher introduced himself, and this is my assistant Mizuki. From this day till the day you graduate we will be your teachers. But make no mistake, this is not the civilian school, this is the Ninja Academy. All those who are here came here with the sole purpose of becoming a ninja for Konoha. Some of you will succeed and become the next legends of our village. He continued his speech, but most of you will either drop out or end up killed within your first year. Most of the class, especially the kids from civilian origin, gulped at that last statement and looked around nervously. The people from clans, however, seemed perfectly at ease hearing about getting killed, and Naruto, who sat down next to Hinata and Sasuke, didn't flinch either. Anyway, Mizuki said, next before we worry about that we shall go outside to the training course to see where everybody stands. Don't worry though, this first session will not count for your report card, he assured them. Nonetheless, it is a good way to see where you need improvement, so do take it seriously. Iruka looked sternly at Shikamaru, who was dozing off in class as he said it. Once outside, everyone stood around the throwing range where Iruka explained the first exercise. It was a simple accuracy test where you threw 5 kunai and 5 shuriken dull ones to make sure nobody caused accidents at a series of targets 20 meters away. You scored points the closer you got to the center of each, for a maximum of 100 points if you landed 10 bullseyes. One by one, Iruka called each name, and that person got forward to throw their weapons at the targets. It was obvious there was already a huge difference between those who had previous experience with throwing weapons and those who didn't. The average civilians scored a low 30 points at best. The kids who came from clans, on the other hand, did better with an average score of 70. Hinata even scored 90, firmly placing herself as the best female and even in the top 3 in general. Finally, only Sasuke and Naruto remained. Sasuke Uchiha, Iruka called amongst a loud murmur when they heard his name. Everyone heard of the legendary Uchiha clan, and now they got to see one of them in action. Sasuke confidently went forwards and took the weapons. He weighted them in his hands and threw them one by one at the targets like he had done countless times before. 99 points. Iruka said in disbelief. That was the score you expected on a final exam after months of training, not on the first day of school. Everybody looked at Sasuke in awe, and several of the girls started talking very excited amongst themselves while looking at him with little hearts in their eyes. Not too bad, Naruto said casually as Sasuke walked back to where he and Hinata were waiting. But you missed one. That one kunai must be slightly off balance then, he remarked. Naruto Uzumaki, you're up, Iruka said. Naruto casually walked to the range and picked up the kunai and shuriken. As he got ready for the exercise, he noticed that nobody was really paying attention to him. Everybody was still hanging around Sasuke. Good luck, Naruto-kun, Hinata, who was the only one looking at Naruto, said. Naruto smiled at her and focused on the exercise. He quickly threw his shuriken and 4 of his 5 kunai at the targets. Everyone spun their heads around when they heard 9 consecutive thuds and looked in shock at the 9 bull's eyes. Naruto was about to throw his last kunai as well when he stopped at the last second, smirked a little, and then threw it anyway, aiming slightly left of his last target where it impacted the board with a thud. Everyone just looked in shock at what they just saw. Well, looks like you were right, Sasuke-kun, Naruto casually remarked. That kunai was slightly off balance. Thanks for the heads up. He smiled at the young Uchiha. No problem, Sasuke recovered himself. I had to let you win at least one trial, right? 100 points. Well done, Naruto, Iruka managed to say after having recovered from what he just saw. 2 geniuses in one class? This is going to be interesting, he taught. After the targeting exercise, they continued towards an obstacle course they had to cross in less than 5 minutes. This time the civilian kids did even worse. Only 6 out of 45 managed to complete it, and even then it took them almost 4 minutes on average. The clan children once again did better and all managed to pass it. Naruto noticed, however, that the best ones were different kids than in the previous exercise. Shikamaru, who scored an impressive 92 in accuracy, couldn't really be bothered to go all out. He called it troublesome and completed the course at a leisurely pace, finishing after 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Kiba, on the other hand, scored pretty low at targeting, a mere 63, but excelled at the more physical test, finishing it in 1 minute and 10 seconds. The rest of them all finished somewhere within that time frame. Even Choji, who was pretty big-boned as he called it, did really well and finished it in 2 minutes. Hinata once again scored really high. She demonstrated a high level of agility and never missed a single step. In the end, however, she missed some of the raw speed and power Kiba had and completed it in only 1 minute and 15 seconds. This still placed her safely above Ino's 2 minutes as the best female, however. Once again, only Naruto and Sasuke remained. Somehow they suspected Iruka did it on purpose to not discourage the others too much. Why don't you go first this time? Sasuke offered with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Thanks. Naruto smiled. No problem. Sasuke smirked a little. After all, a gentleman always lets the ladies go first. Everyone sniffled at the joke, and even Hinata couldn't fully suppress a small smile on her face. Naruto, who could always appreciate a good joke even if he was on the receiving end, had to admit he walked right into that one and focused on the obstacle course instead. There were 5 obstacles they had to cross, First was a wall of 5 meters with ropes they had to climb over, then a balancing beam suspended over water, a series of ropes they had to swing from, a wooden construct without ropes this time, and finally they had to crawl under a series of wires to the finish line without disturbing any of the bells that hang on them. Naruto was determined to win this round as well and quickly went over, through and under each obstacle at record speed. He wasn't as gracious as Hinata had been and had in fact fallen down once. But in the end he made up for it in raw speed and finished at 1 minute and 3 seconds. Sasuke however noticed the part where Naruto had fallen and during his turn made sure to be extra careful when crossing that slippery part of the course. This carefulness paid off since without wasting precious seconds like Naruto had he could go on immediately and finished in 59 seconds. Both of them scored really high again. It looks like it's more than a fluke, Irika taught in disbelief. Very well, let's go to the final test for today, he said while keeping his face straight from the internal shock he was feeling. The last test was a small taijutsu tournament between everyone. To make things fair and balanced, the brackets were divided based on the previous results rather than at random. As such, Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata ended up in different brackets and wouldn't meet each other until the semi-final at best. The first few rounds of the tournament were pretty one-sided for our three heroes. Naruto and Sasuke went through the civilian kids like a knife through butter, and Hinata, who was physically weaker than most of them, relied on her agility and her superior fighting style to reach the semi-finals as well. Eventually only 4 people remained: Naruto, Sasuke, Hinata and Choji, who surprised everyone by beating Kiba in the prior round. All right everyone, Irika said to the group, who was now equally divided in fans of Naruto and fans of Sasuke. The matchups from here on out will be randomly decided, he declared while running his hand blindly through a box and pulled out a card. The first contestant is Naruto and his opponent is the hand went back in the box and pulled out a second card, Sasuke. This means that Hinata vs Choji will be the other semi-final and the winner of both matches will meet in the final. Understood? Okay, first match begin. He shouted the last part. Sasuke and Naruto were circling each other carefully and waited for the other to make the first move. Finally Naruto was the first to get bored and suddenly rushed ahead to launch the first attack. Sasuke quickly reacted and dodged the first blow by rolling out the way. He then spun around and started counterattacking. Meanwhile Naruto had steadied himself from his own missed attack and managed to block Sasuke's punch with his forearms. Sasuke kept up the pressure and continued to try and hit him with a flurry of kicks and punches. Naruto managed to block or dodge most of them, but some still got through and he soon started sporting some bruises from the impacts. Naruto realized that if this kept up he would have to give up eventually, so he decided to start his counterattack. He waited for an opening, and when Sasuke's left side was open after throwing a punch, Naruto took his chance and landed a few hard hits on his exposed side. Sasuke jumped back to stop being hit and readied himself for another assault, biting through the pain from the hits. Meanwhile Naruto prepared himself as well and both boys ran towards each other at the same time, their fist extended to hit the other with everything they got. They reached each other in the middle and both landed their right fist on the other's face. For a moment everything stood still and the audience, who was cheering them on until now, held their breath. Then the world went dark for them and they both collapsed on the ground. Ache! Naruto heard a small voice through his headache. Ake up! The voice became louder. Hey, wake up you two! Irika's voice was clear now and Naruto opened one eye to see the outline of his teacher in his vision. He grunted and opened his other eye as well while looking around the area. Next to him Sasuke slowly got up as well, grabbing his head and cursing under his breath. What happened? Naruto asked. You and Sasuke were fighting in the tournament, and you got knocked out. Irika casually answered. Oh right, the fight. Naruto suddenly remembered. So who won? I did, Hinata said with a smile. What? Naruto and Sasuke asked in unison. Well, Irika said, you both got knocked out at the same time so either of you could go on. And Hinata won her match, so she was the only one left and won the final by default. Oh. They both said, rather disappointed that their unofficial competition ended in a tie. Anyway, Irika continued, now that the first test is over we are done for today. You three can go home now and I'll expect you tomorrow at 8:30 in class. For the next few months Naruto and Sasuke continuously tried to surpass the other, and soon became the 2 best students of their class. Hinata still trained with Naruto and various Anbu in her skills, but mostly her self-confidence kept increasing at an amazing pace. Soon she found herself as the best kunoichi of her class, not that there was much competition for that title, and even started catching up to Naruto and Sasuke as a close third overall. Despite their bitter and often merciless rivalry during any sort of test, competition, trial or spar, the 3 of them actually became quite good friends. They often hung out together and helped each other when someone had difficulty with a certain subject. As the end of their first year at the academy approached, their rivalry to become the #1 student went higher than ever, each with their own reasons why they couldn't lose. Finally the time came when Irika called out their final scores. Already their class had sunk from an original 60 students to a mere 30. Only the clan children and the best of the civilian ones remained, while the others dropped out and transferred to the regular school because they couldn't handle the demanding schedule the academy demanded. Sasuke, Naruto and Hinata sat at their usual spots waiting patiently for Iruka and Mizuki to call out their scores. Let's start with the girls, shall we? Mizuki said, holding the list with all their scores in his hand. Third place for the girls with 85 points is Ino Yamanaka. Everyone applauded politely. Second place with 89 points is Sakura Haruno. He continued, and the Kunoichi of the year with 96 points is Hinata Hyuga. Everyone applauded the three girls, though no one seemed too surprised at the outcome. Hinata's victory was pretty much assured from the beginning. They were much more interested in Naruto's and Sasuke's competition for first place of the boys. Now on to the boys, Iruka said. On the third place with 93 points is Shino Aburame. Everyone once again applauded politely, and then held their breath for the big reveal. Who would win, Naruto or Sasuke? Second place, Iruka began while looking at the scores. That's weird. Mizuki, are these numbers accurate? He suddenly asked his assistant. Yes, all the scores are accurate, Mizuki simply stated. I see, Iruka said while looking at the paper in his hand. Oh, come on! Kiba suddenly shouted, don't keep us in suspense like that. Just tell us who won already. I have a bet to win. All right then, Iruka said. The first place goes to Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto hung his head at this news. This meant he failed. Hinata's father wouldn't allow them to train together anymore now that he didn't reach first place. And Naruto Uzumaki, Iruka continued. Naruto's head snapped back up at this news, wondering if he heard it correctly. What? The entire class shouted. What does that mean? They can't both be on first place? Can they? Yes, Iruka said. Both Naruto and Sasuke scored 98 points total. So it's a tie. They both got first place. Naruto smiled at this news. Granted, it was very unorthodox, the first time in 16 years, Iruka said, but shared or not, first place was first place. So he and Hinata would be allowed to continue their training. Sasuke had similar hopes. Being first still counts even if you had to share the position, did it? He just hoped his father would see it like that as well. Later that night there were several small celebrations in Konoha to congratulate those who passed their first year. Lucky for him, Sasuke's father did agree that being first counted even if it was a tie. Well, more specifically, Sasuke's mother Mikoto said that it still counted and sent a look at her husband that dared him to disagree. He knew better than to argue, so the entire clan was invited to celebrate the success. On the other side of town, the Hyugas held their own private celebration as well. Naruto and Kakashi were invited to join and both donned their finest kimono for the occasion. Apart from him and Hinata, there was a third guest of honor at the party, Hinata's cousin Niji. He also made the top spot in his class, and Hayashi insisted, despite some protest from the elders because Niji was a branch member, that the party was in his honor as well. Naruto quickly found that he didn't get along well with Niji, or most of the Hyugas for that matter. It seemed that Hinata's kindness and calm nature, which he liked best about her, was not a trait she shared with the rest of her family. Most of the Hyugas, including Niji, had a serious stick up their ass and an ego the size of the Hokage monument. He always thought Sasuke had a bit of an arrogant streak if he performed really well in a certain task, but now he had to reconsider that statement. Sasuke was downright humble compared to some of these guys' claims of the superiority of the Hyuga clan, and how lucky he was that he was allowed to train alongside a prodigy of the main house. Even Niji couldn't help but rub in that Naruto had to share his first place position, while he was the undisputed best of his class. Luckily, Hinata seemed to share his discomfort at the boasting of her family, and they even joked about it a few times when the rest of the Hyugas weren't listening. Eventually the night came to a close and he and Kakashi returned home. He said they were allowed to rest for the rest of the week and the training sessions would begin again the following week, when they started their second year at the academy. Naruto was a little disappointed when he found out that students at the academy did not get a real vacation like the kids in the regular school. Iruka said that their skills would deteriorate too much if they didn't practice regularly. He explained that missions and enemies didn't stop because it was a holiday, so ninjas had to get used to working around the year, and they started this philosophy in the academy. After their week off, the students returned to the academy for their second year. Mostly things continued on as usual, with Naruto and Sasuke constantly trying to one-up the other in every test, spar or training exercise. Hinata kept improving as well and soon secured her third place, and then slowly began catching up until she eventually started winning several of the unofficial competitions as well. Eventually they also started on their first ninjutsu lessons. Naruto started fantasizing about breathing fire or summoning lightning and was thoroughly disappointed when Iruka started with a theoretical lesson about chakra theory and how to mold and gather it. He was even more disappointed when he said the only jutsus they would learn in the academy were the transformation jutsu, the substitution jutsu, and the clone jutsu. The other jutsus were only available once they actually became genin, since they didn't want to just let anyone have access to destructive techniques. He quickly discovered two facts. One, he had a lot of chakra, even more than Iruka had apparently. But as a result of this, his actual control, which according to Mizuki was more important than just having raw chakra reserves, was the worst of the class. He compared it to trying to fill a teaspoon with a bathtub of water. He was more likely to wash the entire spoon away than come anywhere close to the impossibly small amount he needed to isolate. Luckily, Kakashi foresaw that this might become a problem, so he started working Naruto on the leaf balancing exercise every day until, After a few weeks of improving his control, he managed to isolate enough of his reserves to use the transformation jutsu and the substitution jutsu without too much trouble. The clone jutsu remained difficult though, and he could only do it when he was extremely concentrated. Kakashi simply said that he should keep on improving his chakra control until it was good enough. 8 months into their second year. Hey, Hinata, have you seen Sasuke today? Naruto asked his friend. No, it looks like he didn't show up. Hinata answered. You think he is sick? Naruto asked. Maybe, we should visit him after class then. Or perhaps it has something to do with all the commotion last night, Naruto said. What do you mean? Hinata asked since she hadn't heard of anything happening last night. Well, last night there was a general alarm in the ANBU headquarters, Naruto explained. They summoned every available ANBU to the mission room. Apparently something really big must have happened. For a minute I thought Konoha was invaded or something. Really? Hinata asked in surprise. She already learned a few things about how the ANBU worked, and a general alarm was only issued for the most important events. Perhaps we can ask Kakashi-sensei later? I doubt it, Naruto said. If it's secret ANBU stuff he won't talk. Not even to us. Yeah, I guess, Hinata said. Oh look, Iruka-sensei is finally here. Iruka had indeed entered the classroom with a defeated look on his face. The entire class noticed something was up when instead of Mizuki it was the director of the school who entered the classroom alongside Iruka. Even Shikamaru opened his eyes and started paying attention. Attention everyone, the director started. Classes have been dismissed for the rest of the week. Your parents have been notified and they will come pick you up shortly. The kids started talking amongst themselves until Sakura raised her hand and asked the question on everyone's lips. What happened? Why are classes cancelled? Iruka looked at the director asking a silent question to which the director gave a short nod. Last night, Iruka began, the Uchiha clan has been massacred inside their compound by an unknown assailant. The entire classroom exploded at that statement. Everyone started talking and bombarded Iruka and the director with several questions until Naruto asked the one they all needed to know. Is Sasuke okay? Sasuke is alive, the director said to everyone's relief, but he is in a coma and is now being monitored at the hospital. So far he is the only known survivor. Before the kids could ask other questions, the director excused himself and left the room. He was going to have to repeat this talk with the other classes as well and did not look forward to it. When they left the school, Naruto and Hinata were awaited by Ko and Kakashi, who looked like he hadn't slept at all last night. Since you are his friends, the Hokage allowed you to visit Sasuke, Kakashi said. Follow me. Your father has agreed, Lady Hinata said with a sympathetic smile. The three of them followed Kakashi to the hospital and they walked into a secure ward until they arrived at a door guarded by 3 ANBU. Inside, Sasuke was lying on a bed. His eyes were open but they looked glassy and he didn't respond to anything. The Hokage was standing next to the bed talking to a doctor. As you can see, this isn't a regular coma, the doctor said. Physically speaking, he is perfectly fine, and a Yamanaka confirmed that he does show signs of normal brain activity, something a regular coma patient doesn't have. So what do you think this is then? The Hokage asked. It looks like he is trapped in a genjutsu, the doctor answered, but we never saw anything this strong. Not even the Kurama clan has any idea what caused this or how to undo it. Any ideas how to get him out of it? No, only someone like Lady Tsunade could break through a case like this, the doctor said in defeat. So what does that mean exactly? He will be like this forever? The third asked, worried. No, the doctor explained, the technique, though extremely powerful, is still limited by its initial chakra supply, which is slowly running out. After a while it will start to lose power, and he will wake up himself. But that could very well take a few weeks at this point. Meanwhile, Naruto and Hinata had entered the room and stood by Sasuke's motionless body. Hinata was softly crying at the sight of their friend in such a state, and Naruto put his arm around her shoulder to try and calm her down. In the meantime, he subconsciously reached for Sasuke's hand for his own emotional support when he felt a sudden pulse emanating from his stomach before the world went black. Everyone watched in horror as Naruto suddenly dropped to the floor, his eyes just as glassy as Sasuke's. Hinata lost all self-control and started crying loudly when her other friend collapsed as well. Ko immediately rushed over to calm her down while Kakashi went to Naruto. He lifted his shirt and saw to his horror that the seal on his stomach was fully activated. Does that mean what I think it means? He asked the Hokage, who was kneeling beside him studying the seal. I'm afraid so, the seal responded to the technique and dragged Naruto inside the genjutsu. The third said. So now what? Kakashi asked. With Naruto in there as well, the technique will burn through its reserves a lot faster, especially if it wants to compensate for his. He looked at Hinata, who was still crying but paid attention nonetheless. Unusual condition, he finished. At the very least they aren't alone, they can support each other now. The third said, we can only wait and trust them to make it out of their own at this point. Inside the mindscape, Naruto woke up inside the Uchiha district at the middle of the night. He started wandering the empty streets until he heard a deafening scream further ahead. He rushed over and saw Itachi Uchiha going through the district killing everyone he met, while Sasuke was strapped to a cross being forced to watch the scene replay itself over and over while he was crying and begged his brother to stop. Sasuke! Naruto yelled at his friend, who suddenly looked up at the person who yelled his name. Naruto? Is that really you? he asked with his eyes still red from crying. Yes, I'll get you down from there. Naruto said, don't move. Sasuke suddenly started laughing, slowly at first, but then he let everything out. Don't move, he said to no one in particular. I'm trapped and immobile and he tells me not to move. Sasuke kept laughing. He knew it was stupid. He knew he shouldn't be laughing right now, but he just couldn't help it. His mind was too tired and tormented to make sense anymore, so he just let out everything without caring about the situation. Meanwhile, Naruto was standing behind him looking at the cross and cursed a little. Apparently getting Sasuke free wasn't as easy as he thought it would be. The world he found himself in didn't play by the rules. For one, he never saw anything that kept Sasuke trapped in the first place. For all he could see, the cross was an illusion itself. Thinking about what they learned in the academy about dispelling genjutsu. Because it was a genjutsu that much he could detect, he tried to mold his chakra and let it out in a pulse. Release! He shouted. He thought he saw the world flicker for a bit, but it ended as soon as it started, and he once again looked at the Uchiha district at night. He tried again, but this time the world didn't even flicker when he released his chakra. Naruto, what are you doing? Get me down from here already! Sasuke shouted. I'm trying, damn it, but I can't seem to break through this illusion. They never let us practice on one this strong at the academy. Naruto shouted back. Okay, now let's focus. What does the manual say when you can't dispel it yourself? Sasuke seemed to regain his composure. If you find yourself trapped in an illusion you cannot break out of, you can dispel it by having an ally enter his chakra in your system. The outside flow will disturb the genjutsu's own flow and dispel it. Naruto droned the lesson he learned from Irika. Let's try that. Pour your chakra in my body and it should release me. Sasuke said. Naruto nodded and placed his hand on Sasuke's back. He poured some of his chakra in his friend's body, and to their relief it seemed to work as the cross he was hung up on suddenly disappeared and Sasuke fell down. Alright, it worked. Naruto shouted. Not really, Sasuke pointed out. We got rid of the cross, but we are still inside this illusion as a whole. Naruto looked around and noticed that they were indeed still inside the Uchiha district, where Itachi kept going through the motions as if nothing happened. He even stopped to talk at the now empty cross, apparently not realizing his brother has been freed. He must have left you with nothing but a pre-recorded message, Naruto reasoned. Without him here to adjust to changes, the illusion can't adapt and keeps on playing the same scene again and again. But how do we break it? Sasuke asked. Well, I tried dispelling it before and it seemed to work for a second. Naruto pondered. Maybe if we both try at the same time we can break through it. They both focused their chakra and released it at the same time. Release. The world around them flickered again, and for half a second they found themselves in what appeared to be a sewer. They saw a set of eyes looking up at them from behind a giant cage before they were suddenly thrown back into the illusion of the Uchiha compound. What was that? They both asked at the same time. Did it work or not? And what was that sewer about? Suddenly the world around them started shaking as if a giant earthquake hit Konoha. They looked up and saw that the very sky started cracking open and red tendrils made of chakra poured inside the illusion, destroying it from the inside out. The world started flickering again, as if the illusion refused to be dispelled, but soon the chakra tendrils broke completely through and the world crumbled to pieces under the strain. Naruto and Sasuke found themselves being thrown inside the sewer again and looked up to see all the chakra tendrils retreat into the cage they came from. They gasped as they saw who their rescuer was. Before them in all its glory stood an enormous fox with 9 distinct tails swinging behind him, looking down at the two of them. And what do we have here? His booming voice filled the room. Does my host finally grant me a visit? He chuckled before looking at Sasuke. An Uchiha. The fox suddenly roared. What is a member of that accursed clan doing here? He demanded. What are you talking about? Naruto shouted back. Who are you and what are you doing here? Are we still under the genjutsu? The giant fox started laughing. Sure, I'll tell you everything. Now why don't you remove that seal over there? He pointed to a piece of paper on the gate with the kanji for seal on it, so we can talk more freely, huh? Do you think we are stupid? Sasuke suddenly interrupted. We aren't going to release you. You're obviously a demon, huh? At least one of you has a brain. The fox said. Just answer our questions, damn it. Naruto snapped. Who are you and what are you doing here? You mean you really don't know? The fox asked, incredulous. Surely your Hokage must have told you who you are? Why do you think you heal so fast? Or why you have such outrageous chakra reserves for a human? Sasuke's curiosity was piqued now. He did always wonder how Naruto, supposedly a clanless orphan, was so good or had so much chakra. Stop playing games and tell us what you know, Naruto demanded again. You got guts, kid, I like that. Very well then, the fox said, I'll humor you once. I am the Kyuubi, the 9-tailed demon fox and greatest of all the demons. Kyuubi? Naruto and Sasuke shouted in disbelief. But that can't be. You're dead. Of course I am the Kyuubi. The fox roared, displeased that they wouldn't believe him. How many other giant foxes with 9 tails do you know of? But why are you alive? Didn't the 4th Hokage kill you 8 years ago? Sasuke asked. You idiots. You cannot kill a demon, for I am immortal. Even if I am defeated I would simply reform myself over time, the Kyuubi said quite proudly. Then what are you doing here? Naruto asked. And why did you save us? I grow tired of your questions. The Kyuubi said. Ask that leader of yours, he knows the answers. And as for why I saved you too, let's just say you are useless to me as a brain-dead puppet. Now leave me alone. The fox laid its head down and started to rest. Naruto and Sasuke seemed unsure of what to do and decided to try and wake up. Suddenly Naruto started blinking and looked up at the white ceiling of the hospital. He groaned and slowly stood up from the bed and looked around. Next to him Sasuke started waking up as well, but unlike Naruto he seemed to have more difficulty orienting himself. You're awake! The two of them suddenly found themselves tightly embraced by a crying Hinata. I was so worried about you. Hinata, stop hugging so tight, I can't breathe, Sasuke said, while his face started coloring purple. Hinata let go of them and merely smiled seeing them move again. Naruto, Sasuke, I'm glad to see you two are fine. The voice of the Hokage suddenly interrupted. Would you mind telling us what happened? Sasuke started talking about everything that happened the night before, how Itachi killed the clan and had a weird Sharingan I never saw before, and then placed him in an illusion where he had to watch his clan being killed all over again until Naruto suddenly appeared. Naruto took over and discussed how he managed to free Sasuke. The Hokage listened intently but his face paled when Naruto finally said the one thing he was afraid of, and he said he was the Kyuubi. But why was the Kyuubi there, and why did he save us? He said you knew the answer? Kakashi and the Hokage looked at each other not sure what to do while Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata, who heard everything, looked at them with a questioning look. This isn't the time and place to discuss this. The Hokage finally said, come to my office tomorrow and I'll explain everything. In the meantime you two should rest. He pointed at Naruto and Sasuke who were finally beginning to feel how tired their bodies were, and you should return to your family, they must be worried as well, he said to Hinata. The three of them nodded and the Hokage left the room. He had a lot of explaining to do tomorrow, and he did not look forward to it. After they were cleared from the hospital, Sasuke and Naruto, alongside Hinata, her father and Kakashi found themselves in the Hokage's office. Where do I begin? The third asked no one in particular. Tell me, he suddenly said, what do you three know about the Kyuubi attack? The Kyuubi attacked Konoha 8 years ago on the 10th of October. Hinata said. It appeared out of nowhere and did a lot of damage. Many people died that day. Sasuke continued, but eventually the fourth Hokage entered the fight and killed it, though he himself didn't survive either. Naruto finished. The third Hokage gave a small smile. It's good to see that you paid attention during history as well. But unfortunately what you just said isn't entirely correct. You see, the Kyuubi isn't dead. Naruto, Hinata and Sasuke looked in shock when he said that not dead. How is that possible? They each thought. The truth is that you can't kill a tailed beast, the third continued, especially one as strong as Kyuubi. Because even if the fourth would have destroyed it, it wouldn't be really dead. Tailed beasts have been killed before and every time they reformed themselves after a few years. Had he killed Kyuubi back then it would have been back now and free to attack villages again. Kyuubi did say something similar, Naruto thought. So what did happen that night then? Hinata asked. That is where Naruto comes in, the third said. You see, tailed beasts cannot be killed, but they can be sealed away. The fourth used a special sealing jutsu and sealed Kyuubi inside a newborn, because only a child can handle the sealing process. A grown man, with developed chakra cores, cannot handle a new foreign source of chakra being entered directly into his system. In fact, the gentle fist style is based around that, I believe? Hayashi merely nodded. So on with the story, the third said. As I said, the fourth sealed Kyuubi inside a newborn. He sealed it inside Naruto. Naruto, Hinata and Sasuke looked wide-eyed at this news. They already suspected it as the story went along, but to hear it spelled out like this was still something else. What? Naruto yelled. Why me? There were several reasons, the third said. For one, the younger the child, the safer it is, and you were literally only hours old. But most importantly though, it was because you are an Uzumaki. Because I am an Uzumaki? Naruto asked. What does that have to do with it? What do you know about your clan? The third asked. Kakashi said the Uzumakis came from Whirlpool and that they were pretty important there, but they got wiped out in the Second Shinobi War. My mother was in Konoha at the time, so she survived and became a Leaf Nin. However, she died the day I was born during the Kyuubi attack. Naruto said the bits and pieces he found out from Kakashi. Yes, that is mostly correct. The third nodded, but for security reasons we held back certain parts until now. What? Naruto shouted, feeling hurt. Why would you do that? Don't I deserve to know where I came from? I didn't mean to hide it from you, Naruto. Kakashi apologized, but what you are about to hear is pretty big news. And you weren't ready yet to face it. I only did it to protect you. Does it involve the Kyuubi? Hinata asked, and the reason being an Uzumaki was important enough to choose Naruto? Yes, the third said. You see, the Kyuubi did not just randomly attack one day as we told you in the academy. What do you mean? Sasuke asked in confusion. The truth is that Kyuubi has been in Konoha's possession for over 60 years now. Everyone, even Hayashi and Kakashi, looked shocked at that statement. How could such a secret have been hidden all this time? The head of the Hyuga clan taught. You aren't the first Jinchuriki we have, Naruto. The third continued. In fact, you are the third one who successfully held Kyuubi for a long period. And just like you, the previous two have all been Uzumakis. There is something in your blood, call it a bloodline if you will, that suppresses demonic chakra and adapts to it. Until now, only an Uzumaki has been able to hold back Kyuubi successfully. Anyone else, and many have tried over the years, died after a few months. Wait a minute! Hinata suddenly interjected. You said the previous Jinchuriki was an Uzumaki, but Naruto's mother was the only one who survived. Does that mean his mother was the Jinchuriki? Yes, the third said sadly. 8 years ago the unthinkable happened. During your birth the seal weakened and Kyuubi escaped, killing your mother in the process. Luckily the fourth anticipated this might happen, and we moved her far out of the village to give birth. I don't dare think what would have happened had Kyuubi escaped inside the village. The outside attack was bad enough already, and inside one would have leveled everything. Naruto looked very quiet. My mother was a Jinchuriki like me. And Kyuubi killed her? There is one last thing, the third said. I might as well tell you about your father too. My father? Naruto asked. You have to understand that even after I tell you, this cannot leave this room. The third insisted while looking at Hayashi directly. Your father had a lot of powerful enemies, and if they knew you are his son they might even start a war for it. Naruto was even more curious now. Who could be that dangerous that people would wage war if they knew I was his son? Your father was Minato Namikaze, the third said. What? Hayashi suddenly broke character and yelled at hearing this news. Are you telling me Naruto is the son of the fourth Hokage? Surely you realize the consequences if news like this were to spread, do you? The third asked coldly. Naruto will not inherit his family title until he is old and strong enough to protect himself from all those who would attack him. Revealing this news, even in good intentions, could have him killed. But why? Naruto asked confused. I thought my dad was a hero. Everyone loves him, don't they? Sensei may be considered a hero in the land of fire, Kakashi said, but to our enemies he was known as an S-rank threat and one who killed many of their loved ones. If the Rock Village found out that he had a son they would send professional assassins after you. Not even the Anbu would be able to protect you from all of them. Indeed, the third said, this news carries a large responsibility. One you aren't ready to face yet. And on that note, I would suggest you watch your tone. Hayashi suddenly said harshly towards Naruto, just now you accidentally called the fourth my dad. People pick these things up and you'll end up jeopardizing yourself with your carelessness. The third nodded. Indeed, Naruto. It would be prudent to never refer to the fourth as your father, even when you think you are alone. Naruto nodded that he understood and the third smiled before turning towards Sasuke. Now then, Sasuke, how are you feeling? Losing your family must not be easy for you. Sasuke said he was feeling fine, but the third could see he was having trouble dealing with all that happened and decided that the boy needed help. Sasuke, you don't have to do this alone, the third said. I am going to set you up with a counselor to help you deal with this trauma. Even the greatest ninjas need someone to talk to after things like this happen. Sasuke nodded. He was secretly relieved he could talk to someone without having to make the first step since he was taught that Uchihas didn't need help from outsiders. But this way he could allow himself some comfort, and later claim it was an order from the Hokage. He knew it wasn't healthy to reason like that, but he was raised like that from birth and old habits die hard. Good, the third said. Now what shall we do about your living arrangements? I can't let a child live by himself, and we can't send you to an orphanage either at your age. Hey, I know, Naruto said. The room next to mine is empty. Why can't he stay there? The third looked at Kakashi, who simply shrugged as if to say why not. Very well then, the third said. I'll see to it that room 102 gets appointed to Sasuke. In the meantime the Uchiha district will be closed down and sealed up to prevent anyone from damaging it or stealing from the buildings. After that the Hokage ended the meeting and contacted Yamanaka and Oichi to start Sasuke's counseling. After the Uchiha massacre, Sasuke moved in room 102 of the iceberg and was soon invited to join Naruto's and Hinata's training sessions with their various instructors. After some months Kakashi was promoted to commander of ANBU when Ryu retired and removed his mask permanently. Since his new position came with more work and responsibility, he only had time to train them once a week, so the three of them soon met many different trainers to work with them. There was Yugogo Yuzuki, who taught them basic kenjutsu, Yamato, who trained them the basic ninjutsu of each element, Kage, who trained them in stealth and evasion, Tawa, who was a taijutsu specialist, and his partner Kamachi, who specialized in throwing weapons. Eventually the months became years and the three of them managed to stay in the top spot of their class even when their classmates started picking up their own training sessions as well. Nowadays a simple class tournament became a sight to behold once their classmates started using specialized clan techniques as well. Instead of simple punches and kicks you had to dodge human boulders from Choji, Fang over fangs from Kiba, poisonous flowers from Ino and Sakura, who trained alongside her friend Ino at the Yamanaka house, and insect domes from Shino. But despite these new tricks, which Naruto could confirm hurt a lot if he didn't manage to dodge them in time, it was always either Sasuke, Naruto or Hinata who won the tournament in the end. Hokage's office, 1 year before graduation. Kakashi, come in, the third said. So what did you wanted to speak to me about? It's about Naruto's training, Kakashi said. Lately we have gone as far as we can reasonably go with academy students. Nowadays they mostly just do standard exercises for better control and repeat the techniques they already know. But only having them a few hours each week limits what we can teach them. What are you saying? The third asked. I think all three of them are ready to take the genin exam early and get a real sensei, Kakashi said. You think they are ready for it? The third asked. Taking the exam early isn't usually done, you know. I was already in the field at their age, Kakashi said. That was in wartime. The third countered. We got rid of that practice because too many graduated before they were truly ready. You of all people should know that. I'm aware of that. Kakashi said. Nonetheless, I repeat that I think they are ready. They have good taijutsu, good shuriken control, and they each know some basic jutsus from their preferred element. Even compared to people a year older than them, they have what it takes to graduate. And what about the basics? The third asked. Iruka's report says that Naruto still struggles with a simple clone. Naruto's problem is that he has too much chakra. He doesn't know what to do with it, and things like creating just one clone is too precise for him. He always overloads the technique and ends up destroying the clone with the pressure he builds up. Kakashi stated. That's hardly a sign of weakness. Perhaps, but the rules cannot be changed. The third said. The exam will feature the clone jutsu, and right now he cannot pass it. I cannot allow exceptions or I'll never hear the end of it. I thought about that. Kakashi responded. I was thinking of teaching him the shadow clone jutsu instead. Shadow clones? The third raised his eyebrow. That's a forbidden technique. It's not forbidden because it's immoral or unethical, nor is it a big village secret that can't spread. Kakashi simply shrugged. It's just too dangerous for people with low chakra reserves since they can end up draining themselves and even die. But I can assure you that Naruto will not have problems with the chakra requirements. If anything, he will find this technique easier since it doesn't demand precise amounts of chakra, and overloading it will only cause more clones to appear than intended instead of shutting it down completely. We still need permission from the council to grant an exception to the rules. The third stated. Hayashi isn't going to vote against his own daughter, and the rest of the clans won't dare cross the Hyuga. And Sasuke is pretty popular with the civilians, so they'll agree as well. Naruto will just have to hitch a ride on their popularity. They can't single him out if we apply all three of them in the same form. I'll even sponsor the decision so he gets the backing of the Anbu. Speaking about Sasuke, how is his mental state? Has he dealt with his parents' loss? The first few weeks were pretty hard. For a while he was obsessed with revenge in an unhealthy way. Kakashi admitted, but the counseling and Naruto's influence has helped him deal with it. He still wants revenge for his family, of course, but he learned to place it and isn't obsessed with it anymore. I'd say we were lucky Naruto accidentally broke the genjutsu so soon. If he were trapped in there for a month instead of just a day, chances are he'd be a revenge-obsessed emo. Thank Kami that didn't happen. The third said, and he and Kakashi laughed at the idea of Sasuke ending up as an emo. But alright. I'll push it through the council. You just make sure Naruto can do the clones. He still has to actually pass the test. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Kakashi said and left the office with a bow. As predicted by Kakashi, once Hayashi Hyuga openly supported the application, and why wouldn't he support his own daughter? The rest of the clans didn't dare protest against it, and by extension the Hyuga clan. And so 2 weeks later Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata entered the Genin exam 1 year earlier than they normally would. Uzumaki Naruto. The instructor said, "You're up next." Naruto entered the examination room and looked at the 2 Chunin instructors from the year above him sitting across from him before a desk filled with Konoha headbands. "Alright," the instructor said after scribbling some notes in a file, "please show us the transformation jutsu. Transform into the Hokage, would you?" Naruto nodded and gathered his chakra. Soon there was a small poof. And when the residual smoke cleared, Naruto was replaced by a spitting image of the 4th Hokage in his official robes, who couldn't help but show a foxy grin. "You never said which Hokage, so I hope this is okay?" he said with a smile. The instructor didn't seem upset and merely asked Naruto to turn around so he could see the transformation from all angles. "Alright, I don't see any real errors. The transformation is adequate enough to pass. Next up is the replacement jutsu. I will throw this ball at your face. You have to dodge it by replacing yourself with that mannequin over there." He pointed to a mannequin on the other side of the room before quickly throwing the ball hard at Naruto's face. Naruto, however, was prepared and managed to replace himself just in time as the ball hit the mannequin that now stood in his former position. Very good reflexes. His would-be assailant commented, "The replacement jutsu is also a pass." "Finally, it's the clone jutsu," he said. "In order to pass you need to make a minimum of 3 clones. Only clones which are good enough to fool me count, so no half-formed monstrosities." Naruto nodded and went through the hand signs. However, both instructors were very surprised when he ended in a cross rather than a ram sign. "Your hand signs are wrong." UFA was as far as he got when the room suddenly filled with 50 copies of Naruto, all grinning from ear to ear. "You were saying?" they all asked at the same time. His only answer was a headband being thrown at one of the clones. Naruto placed it on his forehead and proudly left the room where Hinata and Sasuke, who both already passed earlier, were waiting for him. "Naruto, you passed," Hinata said with a smile. "Congratulations," Sasuke merely said before the 3 of them went off to celebrate. "So, do you think we'll be on the same team?" Hinata asked Sasuke and Naruto. "I hope so. How do they divide the teams anyway?" Kakashi explained at once. Naruto said, "Tonight the Hokage and all the Jonins come together with a list of all those that passed, and the teams are divided. They have a tradition of putting the first and the last together in the same team. Apart from that, they divide the teams with what they think's work best. Sometimes it's because they complement each other's skills, like putting a taijutsu expert together with a genjutsu expert. Or if similar teams have performed well in the past, they'll try to reenact them, like how my clan always worked great with the Inuzuka or the Aburame to form scouting teams. Hinata said, wait, now that you mention it, many of my cousins do have either an Inuzuka or an Aburame as partner. Well, luckily we graduated sooner, or else you might have ended up with Kiba and Shino. Sasuke said while laughing. Hinata shuddered at the thought of being teammates with Shino. She had nothing against the boy, he was even quite nice to talk to, but he still had all those bugs and it made her uncomfortable. And what about the 2 boys, 1 girl ratio? Why is that? Sasuke asked. It's not like they do it on purpose. Naruto said, it's just a side effect of balancing things out. Most male ninja do tend to specialize in combat-oriented skills, while most females have mostly support skills. Combine that with there being twice as much shinobis as kunoichis, and it's almost impossible to make teams that don't fall in this mold. But there are exceptions, like the famous Ino Shikacho team. They were all male. Meanwhile, they arrived at the iceberg and the 3 of them went straight to the lounge. None of the present Anbu looked up anymore. Since Naruto and Sasuke lived there, they had every right to be there. So what are the odds they'll put us together then? Hinata asked again. Well, I don't think we made either first or last place, so we won't be put on that team automatically. Naruto reasoned, I guess it all comes down to whether they think we can work well together. But seeing as we trained together, and we never really met the other people in that class, it would be reasonable to assume they will place us in the same team. At least I hope so. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Hinata said, anyway, I'm going home. I have to inform my father that I graduated. The following day, Sasuke and Naruto left together to the academy. On the way they met Hinata, who was walking with her cousin Neji. Neji acted just as arrogant as Naruto remembered him, and Hinata was all too glad her friends showed up before he drove her mad. Later they entered the room reserved for those who had graduated and waited to see on which team they would be placed. Hey, I've never seen you 3 before. A girl with a pink dress and 2 buns in her hair said. You sure you're in the right class? We used to be in the year below. Hinata explained, but we managed to take the exam early and graduated alongside your class. I see, the girl said, my name is Tenten. What's yours? Hinata Hyuga, Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, Yash. A loud voice suddenly erupted next to them. I am Rock Lee. Nice to meet you, Hyuga-san, Uzumaki-san and Uchiha-san. You must have worked really hard to be able to graduate early. I myself will also prove that the power of hard work is enough to be a ninja. Lee, stop scaring our new classmates. Tenten said dryly. Lee wanted to protest that, but at that moment the Chunin who took their exam the day before entered the room with a clipboard, and everybody suddenly became very nervous. They all knew that they would now be paired up with their teammates, something that would decide their future for years to come. Everyone crossed their fingers, hoping to be placed with a certain person of their class or hoping to avoid a certain person instead. The suspense hung thick as mist in the air. All right, listen up. The Chunin said, I will now divide you into 3-man teams and inform you who your sensei is. He will then pick you up within the next hour and take it from there. Now Team 1 is. He then went over a list of people Naruto didn't know until finally Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga and Sasuke Uchiha. Your Jonin sensei will be Mato Gai. The 3 of them cheered. They were glad they were placed on the same team after all. They were so thrilled they didn't even hear who was put into Team 8 and missed the introduction of Team 9 as well. Tenten, Hyuga Neji and Rock Lee will be Team 9 with Hate Gecko as Jonin sensei. So our sensei will be Mato Gai, huh? Naruto pondered. Why does that name sound familiar? And why do I have a bad feeling about this? You must have heard my eternal rival Kakashi talk about me. A loud voice suddenly boomed through the class as a man wearing a green spandex appeared. Greetings, everyone. I am Mato Gai, the mighty green beast of Konoha. He flashed a smile while giving a thumbs up, and a sunset seemed to appear behind his back. Is that our sensei? Naruto thought. Kakashi considers him his rival? Sasuke wondered. He is using a genjutsu to make a sunset appear every time he smiles, Hinata realized. Green really isn't his color, Tenten concluded. I am glad this isn't our sensei, he looks weird. Lee thought. Fate has decided that Hinata is stuck with this man as punishment for what the main house did to my father. Neji smirked as he looked at his younger cousin. All right, my youthful students. Gai said in his energetic voice, we don't have time to waste. Meet me at the roof of the academy in 5 minutes, on second thought make that 4 minutes. We must continue to push ourselves to greater heights. Without looking back, he suddenly ran towards the roof on his hands. I guess we better follow him, Hinata said. Sasuke and Naruto nodded, and the 3 of them headed towards the roof to meet their new sensei. After catching up with Gai on the roof, he explained there was a second test they needed to pass before they truly became genin. Deciding they had no time to waste, he insisted on doing the test that same day. So our 3 friends soon found themselves at Training Ground 7 while Gai explained their mission. It's quite simple, really. He said, your job is to land a hit on me before the sun sets. That's it, just tag me or successfully hit me with a jutsu or throw a kunai. That's all. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Once he said go, he used a body flicker and disappeared from sight. I can't sense him anywhere nearby. Naruto said. Hinata, I'm on it. Hinata said while activating her Byakugan. He's over there, about 200 meters away from us, and increasing the distance. Damn, he's fast. Sasuke stated. We better go after him before he's out of your reach. The three of them set off after the speeding green beast of Konoha. They quickly realized that landing that hit was going to be more trouble than they thought. They hardly managed to keep up with Guy, who they suspected was already slowing down considerably, let alone go anywhere near him enough to even attempt an attack. A few times they came close enough to throw a shuriken or launch a fireball, but Guy either dodged or reflected the attacks and then went off again. Guy had long ago abandoned the training area and was now leading them to a merry chase around the forest, the lake, some other training areas, and he even went into the market district once to buy a bottle of water. If it wasn't for Hinata's Byakugan, they would have lost sight of him hours ago, but they had to use it sparsely as she didn't have the chakra capacity to keep it active for hours on end while doing a high-speed chase. Alright, let's take a break. Sasuke said. I'm exhausted. The three of them sat down to get their breath back and started drinking from a water bottle Hinata had bought in the same store as Guy when they chased him there earlier. I think we're doing this wrong, Naruto said. What do you mean? Sasuke asked, still out of breath. Look, we can't catch him like this, Naruto said. He's too fast for any of us, and at this rate we'll simply run out of time and fail. Well, what can we do then? Sasuke asked. We have to catch up with him somehow. Yeah, but the point is we can't catch him. Not like this. We have to work together. But Naruto, we are working together, Hinata said. No, he shook his head. We aren't. We run alongside each other and don't get in the other's way, that's true. But at the end we are still each doing our own thing. We have to coordinate our movements to trap him. I think this test is about teaching us a point. Individually we are limited, but working together we can do it. Okay, Sasuke said. It looks like we have about half an hour left before the sun sets. Hinata, where is he now? He went back to our training field and it seems he is waiting for us there. Alright, let's split up and surround him. Naruto said. Hinata, you go around and approach from behind. Sasuke, you go from the left, and I will approach him from the right. When we are in position we attack him from all sides at once. He can't possibly dodge every attack. They nodded and everybody left for their respective positions. It's almost time. Guy pondered. Have they finally given up? Suddenly he was forced to dodge as several shuriken came flying out the bushes behind him. He quickly stepped sideways when Naruto jumped out of the trees in front of him, doing several hand seals. Wind element, air bullet. Several compressed gusts of air sped rapidly at Guy, who merely jumped to the side and went the other way until he was stopped by a barrage of fireballs that scorched the earth in his path. Fire element, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Sasuke yelled from the side. Once again changing directions, he was suddenly faced with Hinata, who launched a whip of water at his head. Water element, water whip, she said. Guy suddenly dropped and rolled underneath the whip, thus avoiding being hit. You three are very good for genin, he complimented. Doing elemental attacks is no small feat. I can see my eternal rival Kakashi trained you well. But you still didn't hit me. Oh, but we weren't trying to hit you, Hinata suddenly said with an unusual sweet voice that put Guy on alert. See, it's like this. Hitting you is Naruto's job, Sasuke said with a smirk. We simply had to distract you, Naruto said before poofing out of existence, showing he was just a clone. Guy's eyes widened when he realized his three students managed to trick him, and just as he was about to move again, Naruto, the real one this time, bursted from underneath the earth element, mold technique, he said with a smile on his face. He was about to hit Guy when the last ray of sunshine suddenly disappeared behind the horizon, indicating their time was up. That was a very good combination, Guy said, but unfortunately that punch came too late. The sun already set when you hit me. Oh, come on, Naruto said. It was 1 second. You can't be serious about 1 second, can you? In missions 1 second can be the difference between success and failure, Guy said in his teacher mode. There are plenty of dead people that failed by just 1 second. The three of them hung their head in defeat. If we only worked together sooner we would have won, they each taught. But then again, Guy said, you did came very close. Closer than anyone came in years, in fact. I could give you a second chance, but this time it'll be a lot harder. I'll do more than just dodge this time, and you will get hurt if I take it seriously. So what about it? Are you prepared to do it again? The three of them looked at each other and hardened their resolve. Yes, Guy-sensei, we will do the test again, and this time we will hit you before the time limit. Well, in that case, he began. You pass. He gave them a thumbs up and the sunset reappeared behind his face as he said so. What? They each yelled in surprise. What do you mean we pass? I must confess, my beloved students, that I have lied to you earlier, he said while crying passionately. Hitting me was never the real test. It was only a means for me to conduct the true test. The true test? Hinata asked. Yes, Guy said, the true test was never giving up despite seemingly impossible odds. You see, it's easy to keep going when all is well, but persevering when the world turns against you, now that is true youthfulness. He once again gave them his trademark smile and thumbs up. So we really passed? Naruto asked in disbelief. Yes, Guy loudly proclaimed. We will begin first thing tomorrow. Meet me at the training ground at say 5 o'clock. FF5? Naruto said worriedly. You can't be serious, can you? Of course I am, Guy said that way we can have several hours of training before we start our first D-rank mission. I can see that this will be most useful. I'll see you tomorrow, my beautiful students. Now I must inform the Hokage that you passed the test. With that he ran off towards the village again. Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata looked at each other dumbfounded until they started grinning. All right, we passed. Watch out world because Team 7 is ready for action. By the way, Naruto. What's a D-rank mission? Sasuke asked. I think the D stands for dangerous, Naruto said. We'll probably be sent to save a princess or something. You'll see, being a genin will be so awesome. Omake, congratulations on passing you 3. We will meet here tomorrow at 8 o'clock for our first mission. Hate said to Team 9, thank you sensei. Niji, Tenten and Lee said as they were about to leave. Lee, can I have a small word with you? Hate said to one of his students. Yes, Hate sensei. What do you want? Lee asked. I read in your report you can't perform ninjutsu or genjutsu. Is that true? Yes, due to a medial problem I'm not able to convert my chakra towards techniques, Lee answered. In that case you will need another way of fighting if you want to go out on missions. Hate said while handing Lee a wooden stick. Tell me Lee, have you ever considered kenjutsu? Kenjutsu? Lee asked confused. Kenjutsu doesn't require chakra. Hate said, I think you'd be really good at it if you train hard. Yes, sensei. Lee said enthusiastically. I will be the best swordsman the world has ever seen. I will prove you can be a good ninja even without using ninjutsu or genjutsu. I hate D-ranks. Naruto shouted while he was waist deep in the Konoha River fishing out garbage. So far they had been genin for 3 weeks and it was terrible. He assumed it would be awesome and adventurous with lots of cool and exciting missions like they talked about at the academy. Funny enough, the academy never mentioned such a thing as D-rank missions, which included marvelous tasks such as painting a fence, milking cows, dragging wood to a construction site, or his all-time favorite, catching a runaway cat named Tora. Their current youthful adventure, as their sensei Guy called it, consisted of cleaning up the Konoha Park after some local women's club had organized a small festival the night before. Therefore Sasuke was filling several plastic bags with garbage. Hinata was in charge of cleaning up the equipment, and Naruto, who lost their game of rock paper scissors, had to clean up all the garbage from the river that ran through the park. There were times when he wondered what he was thinking when he decided to graduate a year sooner. Yes, school was sort of boring and he didn't really learn anything new anymore, but at least you didn't had to dig any empty ramen cups from a river at 7 o'clock in the morning. Then again, Guy said they were making great progress in their training, and he was going to ask the Hokage for a C-rank mission soon. Thinking back on their first real training session, he was still a bit embarrassed about Guy's assessment of their skills. They were always used to being the best of their year, so hearing Guy point out their flaws was a much-to-wake-up call. He thought they couldn't have been that bad since only one other team of their graduating class passed their genin test, therefore making them the second best team of their generation, right? But Guy had also pointed out that since their classmates didn't pass, their performance no longer counted. And next to the other genin teams, theirs was the weakest one at the moment. Hearing it like that, they were motivated to change that and get back to the top position they were used to. Luckily, Guy thought the same and had given them a strict training schedule to improve. He remembered that first training day like it was yesterday. Flashback 3 weeks ago, their first training session consisted of more tests where Guy would test each of them individually to get a good grip on their skills. He had their files from the academy, but he insisted that files didn't show everything and wanted to see for himself. Naruto went first and showed his wind jutsu, his own mix of taijutsu, his throwing skills, and finally surprised Guy with making 100 shadow clones and being able to perform a solid transformation. Sasuke showed his fire and electrical jutsu, his clan style and taijutsu, the interceptor fist, and his skills with kunai and shuriken. Hinata showed off her water techniques, her taijutsu skill in the gentle fist style, and her homemade healing salves. After also testing their endurance and stamina, Guy was finally ready to give his opinion. Alright, my youthful students. There is good news and there is bad news, he said in his always enthusiastic voice. The good news is that you 3 are very well balanced. He began. As expected from my eternal rival, Kakashi made sure that you studied and trained in every art of the ninja. Usually beginning genin have a few glaring holes in their education and are thus easily defeated when their opponent figures it out. You 3 on the other hand have good taijutsu, ninjutsu and shuriken control. An enemy will be hard-pressed to find an exploitable weakness. The 3 of them grinned at that. It seemed their hard training had paid off until Guy gave them the downside of their training. Unfortunately, that style of training also comes with a price, one that will cost you dearly in the long run if you keep this up, Guy said with an ominous voice. What do you mean, Guy-sensei? Hinata asked. Isn't it a good thing not to have weaknesses? Yes, of course that is good, he explained, but you shouldn't try to generalize your skill set too much, or you'll end up as a jack of all trades but a master of none. I noticed that while you don't have any obvious shortcomings, you also don't have any real strengths either. You will end up being mediocre at most skills and won't really excel at any in particular. Until now, your strict training and low level made sure you were able to outperform your classmates anyway, but if you keep this up you will notice that you start stagnating instead of making progress. Guy explained in his teacher mode. Then what do we do? Sasuke asked. I recommend that you start specializing in one particular field. That's the way most jonin do it. He answered. For example, I am a taijutsu specialist and deadly in close combat. And while I do keep up with my ninjutsu, it is chunin level at best. My rival Kakashi, on the other hand, is a ninjutsu specialist, who only has average taijutsu compared to a master like myself. Others specialize in genjutsu like Kurina Yuhi or in kenjutsu like Hade Gecko. Even the Hokage himself is really only skilled in ninjutsu, and isn't that strong in taijutsu or genjutsu anymore. The point is that if you want to be the best at everything, you'll only end up as the best in nothing. You have to specialize in one area. Specialize in one area? Naruto pondered. It makes sense, I guess. Still, it is a pretty big decision to make. I'm not sure I feel ready yet to know what my entire further career will look like. Indeed, my youthful student, Guy said approvingly, this is a very important decision. I recommend thinking carefully before you choose. Don't just pick something because you feel like you have to. I want to specialize in taijutsu, Hinata suddenly said. The Byakugan allows me to perform the gentle fist style, so that would be an obvious choice. Besides, my chakra reserves aren't big enough to focus on ninjutsu anyway. Very good, Hinata, Guy praised her. That is a well thought out reason. I think you'll do very well as a taijutsu specialist. I'll pick ninjutsu, Sasuke stated. I feel more comfortable attacking from a distance, and my fire jutsus cannot be implemented at close range since they could end up damaging me as well. Also, once I unlock the Sharingan, I'll be able to copy other people's jutsus and use their own attacks against them. And Kakashi warned me that in order to do that I need a lot of experience in ninjutsu or I'll only end up with inferior copies. One again, Guy nodded in approval. Yes, that is very sound reasoning. You'll do fine as a ninjutsu specialist. Sasuke smiled at the praise. And finally, Naruto, have you made a decision yet? Guy asked his blonde pupil. I don't know, Naruto said whilst thinking it over. I mean, I like close combat more than fighting from a distance, but I'm not sure I have a future in taijutsu. I usually stick to the academy style combined with a few advanced moves I picked up left and right. For now it's enough, but I know it'll never stand against the real style, especially an advanced one like the gentle fist. On the other hand, my wind techniques are very good, and I know I have enough chakra to not have to hold back in a fight. But the whole running, dodging and throwing techniques from a distance isn't my style. I usually throw a few air bullets at my opponent before moving in and fighting up close, but I don't think I can do an entire fight with jutsu still. What do you think is best, Guy-sensei? Naruto asked. That is indeed a challenging problem, my dear student. You are best suited for something you don't really want to do and not so good at the thing you like doing. Guy summarized in his teacher mode. Normally there isn't really a correct answer for dilemmas like these, but you are in luck since I know just the answer for your problem, Guy said while giving a thumbs up. But how? Sasuke asked. It looks to me like he has to make a choice either way. The style he is good at versus the style he likes most. Whatever he ends up choosing, he will have to face consequences, right? Naruto and Hinata nodded at this and waited at their sensei's response. Normally you would be correct, as most ninjutsu aren't suited for close combat compared to taijutsu, Guy said, but luckily for Naruto, wind techniques are the exception. Wind is known as the most aggressive of the 5 elements, and using the right techniques it's perfect for close combat fighters as well. Until now you focused on wind techniques that blew your opponent away from a distance. But if you focus on the techniques that slash your opponent with the cutting power of wind instead of those that blow them away from afar, you can easily combine wind ninjutsu with close combat fighting. In essence, you will train both your ninjutsu and taijutsu at the same time without having to sacrifice either. Naruto smiled as he heard this. This was perfect for him, using his large chakra reserves for ninjutsu while still fighting up close and personal. This was everything he wanted in his fighting style. Thank you, Guy-sensei. I will look into cutting powers of the wind at once. Guy smiled at Naruto's enthusiasm and gave him a thumbs up while his teeth were sparkling. That's the spirit. With the power of youth you will succeed in no time. However, he suddenly said with his serious voice again, now that your fighting style is taken care of, I want to focus on the second problem in your skills. A second problem? Hinata asked. Yes, Guy said. While you are very skilled in battle, you 3 are quite lacking in other skills and ninja must posses. At this point you are little more than trained fighters. For instance, how would you go about infiltrating an enemy stronghold and copying papers without being seen? You can't just enter through the front door and fight your way in, especially if Konoha can't officially be involved. Or what if you have to track down a runaway prisoner? You can have all the fighting power in the world to take him down, but that won't do you much good if you can't locate him in the first place. Without support skills, all the battle prowess in the world is meaningless. The 3 of them nodded, seeing the wisdom behind his words. Now don't worry too much, eventually most of these skills will come from experience, and nobody expects a genin to know them all. Guy said, but for now I want you to also study one extra skill that isn't immediately related to combat. That way we can broaden our arsenal and get more C-rank missions sooner. Besides, there is never any harm in knowing more stuff. A lot of people end up implementing their other skills in combat as well. So do you have an idea what you would want to pick up? Guy asked. Fuinjutsu, Naruto said without even pretending to think about it. Sealing techniques? Guy asked in amazement. That is a pretty overlooked skill. Why did you pick it? My clan, the Uzumaki, were known as experts in Fuinjutsu, Naruto said quietly, and even if I never get to meet them, I feel like studying seals will make me get closer to them. Sasuke and Hinata each put a hand on his shoulder to show their support, and Guy nodded approvingly. I see. Guy said, well, I don't really know a lot about seals myself, but I'll try to find you some literature to start on. Now what about you two? I want to learn medical jutsu and techniques. Hinata said. I already make my own healing lotions from herbs and I want to know more about other healing techniques. I want to study genjutsu. Sasuke finally said. Several of my clan's techniques are based around genjutsu, and it is one art I am not very good at the moment. Very well, Guy said with a thumbs up and a sparkle in his teeth. I'll try to get you guys going on the things you want to learn. Now that is settled, let's continue our regular training and then we can do our first mission. Flashback end. It's been 3 weeks since Naruto started working on his new fighting style and his study in Fuinjutsu, and so far he made little progress. The scrolls Guy gave him about the Wind Sage style demanded that he was already able to gather pure wind chakra, which he could train by splitting a leaf with his chakra. So far he tried it for 3 weeks and all he had to show for it is a small indent that might be the beginning of a cut. Guy insisted that he shouldn't give up and that it was normal that it could take weeks before he could get the hang of it. In the meantime, Guy recommended that he bought a weapon made from a chakra-conducting material so he could learn to use that one in the meantime. Eventually he would learn how to channel wind chakra into the weapon to really do some damage. The final step, where he wouldn't even need a conductor at all and would be able to channel the various wind blades from his limbs at will, would take years to master. So he better started doing it sooner than later. His Fuinjutsu studies went slightly better once he got properly started. At first, many scrolls and books he looked up on the topic were written for Chunin or higher, and assumed he already had a good knowledge of chakra theory. He even found an original scroll from the first Uzumaki himself inside the personal library of Mito Uzumaki, that was now integrated in the Anbu archives. However, his enthusiasm quickly faded once he realized he literally did not understand one word in the entire scroll. The Uzumakis were talented at sealing, and especially the Uzumaki was a master. Thus he did not bother dumbing things down or properly explaining what exactly each seal was supposed to be doing in the first place. Eventually, though, Kakashi handed him a small red book called Sealing for Dummies. It was written by a guy called Jiraiya, and it was the only book that actually taught you how to make seals from scratch instead of assuming you already knew and just needed specific recipes. So after going through the first few lessons on what seals are and the different ways you can use them, he started making his very first seals. So with that in mind, he entered the Dragon Fang weapon shop to buy new sealing scrolls, ink, brushes, and to look at one of those chakra-conducting weapons Guy talked about. Welcome to the Dragon Fang. How can I help you today? A familiar voice said as he entered the store. Oh, hi Tenten, Naruto said to the girl who greeted him. Do you work here? I didn't know that. Naruto, I didn't recognize you at first. Tenten said, and yes, I have a part-time job here. I met the owner on one of those D-rank missions. She rolled her eyes in disgust as she spoke of the bane of all genin, and he was quite impressed with my knowledge of weapons, so he offered me a part-time job. The money is not bad. I like working with all the weapons and I get a discount on everything I need, which really comes in handy. But anyway, enough about me. Are you here for something specific? Yes, Naruto said while mentally checking over his list. I need 5 empty sealing scrolls, chakra-sensitive ink, and a few brushes. Tenten started gathering the items while they kept talking. So what are these for then? Do you know how to make seals? She asked. I'm working on it, Naruto said, but it's pretty complicated though. For now I'm working on custom explosive tags and paralyzing seals, which are basically the 2 simplest seals to start with. I also looked at the more advanced seals as well, and there is some pretty crazy stuff in there. But that won't be for a year or so. Still, it's going to be awesome when I can finally do it. No doubt about that. Tenten replied. So is that all, or do you need something else as well? Actually, I do. Naruto said. Guy-sensei said I should look into chakra-conducting weapons. Do you sell those? Chakra-conducting weapons, huh? Tenten whistled through her teeth. Yeah, we have a few of those in the back, but I have to warn you, those things are pretty expensive. I was afraid of that. Naruto said while looking at his wallet with a frown. Well, can you show them anyway? Sure thing. Tenten said. Follow me. She went to the back of the store where they kept the more exclusive weapons. She pointed Naruto towards a corner where several weapons that were made from a dark green material were put on display. Here are our chakra-conducting weapons. Tenten explained. They are imported from the land of iron and made by authentic samurai blacksmiths. The exact composition of the alloy is a closely guarded secret, but it is the best material to make these blades from. These are the best weapons in all of Konoha. It looks like they are also the most expensive weapons in all of Konoha, Naruto said while looking at the price tags on display. Yeah, they aren't cheap. Tenten admitted, but trust me, they are worth every ryu. How do they work anyway? Naruto asked. The idea is quite simple, Tenten explained. Basically, every handle has a small chakra-sensitive surface that is directly connected to the blade itself. So when you let your chakra flow into this surface, it spreads directly into the weapon. Due to the special alloy used to make these weapons, the properties of the blade change depending on the type of chakra that is used. Some weapons also have several seals inscribed in them that allow for additional effects. So put the chakra in the handle and it transfers to the blade? Okay, seems simple enough. Naruto said. So what kind of weapons are there? We have all kinds of standard bladed weapons like katanas, daggers, trench knives, and short swords. She pointed towards a shelf filled with blades of all sizes. But we also have some non-traditional weapons like quarterstaffs, maces, axes, tonfas, sayas, and nunchakus. She pointed to another shelf with all kinds of less traditional weapons. A lot of them seemed highly impractical, and Naruto wondered if someone actually used these. Still, he found something that piqued his interest. These ones looks rather unique, he said, pointing at what appeared to be a pair of gloves. How do they work? Yes, the combat gloves. Tenten said. They are a one-of-a-kind weapon. The blacksmith that invented these insisted they would be revolutionary, and made these as a prototype. But they didn't catch on with the samurai, so he was forced to abandon his plans and sold the prototype to recover his losses. According to the scroll that comes with it, you wear them as if they are normal gloves, like this. Tenten carefully put the combat gloves on as she continued the demonstration. The inside of the gloves have several chakra-sensitive receptors in each finger, and on the palm, so it feels slightly funny and sluggish at first, but it doesn't hinder regular movement, so forming hand seals or using taijutsu shouldn't be a problem. Tenten explained. Now the real fun begins when you are channeling chakra in them. As she explained it, the gloves suddenly began glowing light green. When you are activating the gloves, the outside becomes harder than steel, and you can release several of its hidden blades and other parts depending on how you channel your chakra. Suddenly 3-foot-long claw-like blades sprang between the knuckles of the gloves. These are claws, Tenten explained. They are harder than steel and sharp enough to cut through rocks. They will also never break or go dull since the blades reshape themselves from your chakra. Suddenly the claws retracted and a single solid blade appeared from the palm of the blade and nested itself between the middle and ring finger. This one is called the hidden blade. Its design is based on weapons used by some ancient guild of assassins. It's primarily a stabbing weapon designed to go through any kind of armor, and just like the claws, it will always be in prime condition since it reforms itself on your chakra. Finally, the blade is said to adapt itself to its user. The longer you use it, the stronger your link with the weapon will become. Eventually you can start making more complex forms, but that's just according to the smith. It has never actually been tested. This weapon looks incredible. How much is it? Naruto asked. Well, it's at 250,000 ryu. Tenten said calmly. 250,000. Naruto almost yelled. I can't afford that. Maybe I know a solution. Tenten suggested. See, our normal supplier of seals has stopped recently, and we are running out of our supply of tags and can't find another source anytime soon. You said you can make custom explosion tags, right? If you can show my manager that your tags are good enough to sell, you can strike a deal with him. He's currently really desperate for a new supplier, and would be willing to pay up to 500 ryu for every batch of 10 tags. If you think of it as a part-time job and produce a few hundred a week, you can make the money back easily. Naruto considered this and decided he really wanted the combat gloves. Besides, with his shadow clones, making the seals in large quantities wouldn't be as tedious as everyone assumed, but they didn't need to know that, right? Alright Tenten, I'll go talk to your manager about supplying seals. The next day Naruto tested his new weapon out in the training session of Team 7. Using hand seals with them was a bit hard at first, but he quickly got used to them, and he got the hang of it quite fast. Using them in his new fighting style turned out to be quite a workout. According to the scroll that came with the gloves, they weren't accepted by the samurai because the chakra drain was considered too big for prolonged use. Too big for a samurai, that is. He chuckled to himself while thinking of his enormous amount of chakra, a gift from his unwanted tenant. So far he was using them for 3 hours straight, and he was still good to go. That didn't mean he didn't feel the drain, especially when he changed from the claws to the blade and back to their unhardened state all the time. Still, he felt comfortable that he could keep using them for an entire fight without the risk of running low on chakra. His sealing had also improved a lot. Apparently, using shadow clones to mass-produce the seals he sold to get his money back had the side effect that he trained his sealing a lot faster than the book said he would. Right now, he could make a normal explosive tag in less than a minute, and a custom one in 5 minutes. So with an hour of work a week and 10 shadow clones helping him, he made 60 batches of tags which he sold to the Dragon's Fang for 500 ryu per batch. Not a bad deal if he said so himself. For the next 3 weeks, Naruto's schedule consisted of training with his new gloves, crafting better explosive seals for the Dragon's Fang, training with his team, doing those god-awful D ranks, and working on his wind chakra. Eventually Guy decided they were ready for their first C-rank mission. It still wasn't anything fancy or legendary, but it could at least be considered actual ninja work instead of cheap child labor. So Team 7 went into the Hokage Tower for their first real mission. So Guy, you think they are ready for a C-rank? The Hokage asked the man in green thighs. Absolutely, Lord Hokage. My youthful students have trained very hard and they are now ready for the first big step in their career. Guy shouted whilst giving a thumbs up. I'll take that as a yes then. The Hokage said, seemingly used to Guy's wild behavior. Now let's see what we have. He reached the mission scrolls before him and looked at the pile of C-rank missions that were requested of the village. An escort mission? No, the client's too important. Border patrol? No, that's not suited for kids. Guard duty? Too soon. The Hokage went over each scroll and put it back down, looking for something suited for a beginning team. Ah, this is an interesting one, he suddenly said while reading a particular scroll. Apparently the town of Kyoku is recently plagued by sightings of a monster, as they call it. The unknown creature appears at night and roams around the area of the town. So far there has only been material damage and no casualties, but the people are getting afraid and want this dealt with immediately. The mayor of Kyoka suspects that it's all a trick of the mind and that this monster is nothing more than a regular animal like a bear or some youngsters who scare people. He expects you to investigate the attacks and put a stop to them before the rumors grow out of control. The town lives of its tourism after all, and they can't use bad press or talk of monsters. Have no fear, Lord Hokage. We will solve this mystery and bring peace to the poor people of Kyoku. Guy proclaimed loudly while accepting the mission scroll. That's great, Guy. The Hokage said simply without a single hint of sarcasm in his voice. Anyway, you are dismissed. Good luck on your mission. All right, team, Guy said. Pack your bags for a long-term mission and meet me at the gate in 1 hour. Kyoka town is 5 days' travel from here, but if we hurry we can do it in 4. Yes, Guy-sensei. They all said and disappeared to get ready, thrilled to finally get a real mission. Meanwhile, in a cave near Kyoka town, are you certain he is here somewhere? A dark voice asked. Yes, Captain, the damage we found near the town matches his chakra signature. He is definitely somewhere in this area. What makes you so sure he didn't leave already? He has been running from us for 2 weeks straight now. He was heavily hurt when he escaped our facility. It's a miracle he got this far, but it looks like he finally had to stop and rest somewhere. It looks like he is waiting and recovering somewhere nearby. Though we better act quick. Once he is fully healed he'll be on the move again, and we might lose his trail. Captain, we have a problem. A new voice suddenly said. The mayor got sick of the rumors and called help from Konoha. They will be sending a squad soon. Damn it, the captain of the group said. We can't have Konoha-nin snooping around. That complicates everything. Go back and find that freak. We have to recover him at all costs. Yes, sir, both of his underlings said and disappeared in a swirl to look for their missing prisoner. Shit. The captain mumbled to himself. Lord Orochimaru will kill us if we let his experiment fall in Konoha's hands. Where the hell is that bastard hiding? Team 7 made quick progress towards the border town of Kyoku. With no civilian to slow them down, like you have to deal with on escort missions, they quickly went for the trees and sped towards their destination. Normally the town was 2 weeks' travel away from Konoha, but ninjas could do it in 4 days if they had nothing holding them back. Guy insisted that they would make it in 3 days instead with the power of youth. Even if that meant they had barely no breaks. And so Team 7 arrived at their destination on the evening of the 3rd day. They were exhausted from the long-running sessions Guy forced on them and very hungry since they didn't have had time for a proper meal. So the team went straight for the house of the mayor, who was also the client that hired them, to get installed as soon as possible. You must be the ninja from Konoha my master requested? A man wearing a suit asked after they knocked on the mayor's house. I must say you came sooner than we expected. That is us all right. Team Guy is reporting for duty. Guy answered loudly while giving the man a huge smile and a thumbs up. Do come in. The man said while holding the door open. My master Furakami-sama already went to bed. But I will lead you to your rooms and he will come see you the first thing in the morning. My name is Takawara, his assistant. As Team Guy went inside, Naruto's stomach started rumbling. Would you like something to eat first? Ninja-san, Takawara asked with a smile. We don't want to intrude. Naruto replied. Nonsense, you are our guest. I will prepare a meal for you. I hope you don't mind something simple like ramen? Takawara almost apologized. Did you say ramen? Takawara-san, you are the best. Naruto exclaimed enthusiastically, which earned him a small giggle from Hinata. After their meal the team installed themselves in their room and had their first real sleep in 3 days. The next day they met their client. Mureo Furakami was a man in his late 40s with pitch black hair, blue eyes and an expensive kimono. He greeted the ninjas with an air of confidence that proved this wasn't the first time he dealt with shinobi. So we are here to deal with a monster that has been harassing your town, am I correct? Guy said. Oh please. Mureo said with a wave of his hand. Don't tell me you believe those fairy tales? The mission scroll said this town was under attack from some monster. Guy clarified. Are you saying that's not true? Oh no, there is definitely something going on. But it's not a monster. Look, I'll get right to the point. 2 weeks ago several of our farmers started reporting attacks on their cattle at night. The local militia looked at it but couldn't solve the crime. Soon those stories started getting a life of their own and now the townsfolk are afraid that a monster is attacking this town. Mureo shook his head in disbelief at how gullible people were. So what are we here for then? Guy asked. Basically it's a PR move. I want you to publicly investigate these attacks, show everyone that I hired Konoha shinobi and that I take this threat seriously. Then after you discover that it's just a wild bear, some bandits, or maybe a kid pulling a prank, you enter the woods and get the one responsible. The sooner this ridiculous nonsense is over, the better. We depend on income from the trade routes run through here and these stories are scaring away the merchants. I see. Well, could you lead us to one of the crime scenes so we can get started? It's better we get this over with as soon as possible. Of course. My assistant Takawara-san will be at your service for the remainder of your stay. Ask him and he will lead you to where you need to go. And thus Team 7 and their guide Takawara left to investigate the place where the supposed monster attacked first. Guy noted that Takawara led them through the middle of the village instead of going straight at the farm, which was located near the edge. No doubt another calculated move to make sure everyone sees us. But I hate parading like this. This is not youthful at all. We shall have to plan extra training exercises when we get back to rekindle our flames of youth after this mission. Yes, that is a most excellent idea. During the rest of the day they went towards several farms, once again taking busy roads on purpose, Guy noted, to look at the various sites that were attacked. Using Hinata's Byakugan and Guy's experience, they even managed to collect several hidden clues that the local militia didn't accidentally destroy in their amateurish attempt at investigating. Guy was still furious when he heard the carcasses of the attacked animals were already destroyed. How was he supposed to know what attacked these cows if they didn't even leave a corpse to look at the wounds anymore? After dinner they got back to their rooms and spread everything they found out on the floor. Guy immediately noticed a pattern but decided that this was a good training exercise for his genins, so he backed off and let them try to figure it out themselves. "Alright team, what do we have?" he asked innocently. "On the site of the first attack we found blood that doesn't belong to a cow, so the attacker was bleeding himself, yet there were no signs of a fight," Hinata said. "In the second attack he broke through a wall to get in. That's not something a kid can do for a prank, so that's out," Naruto said. "He also stole clothes and bottles of water, so it's not a wild animal like a bear." Sasuke continued. "So a group of bandits then?" Hinata asked. "Not likely," Naruto pointed out. "When he entered that third farm he only took clothes and some basic supplies and didn't touch the rest. Even I could see there was quite some money to be made in that place. Bandits wouldn't be able to resist taking the jeweler. No, our man is not in it for the money." Guy was smiling as he saw that his team connected all the clues. "Now let's see if they come to the right conclusion as well." Indeed. "But what does it all mean?" he asked his students. "We have one man, who is working alone. He is injured, hence the bleeding, and in need of supplies. He enters a few farms at night, and takes only what he needs to eat and heal up. So I'm guessing we have a fugitive," Naruto said. "But if it's a fugitive, why not just come to town and check in at the hospital?" Hinata asked. "Because he can't," Sasuke answered. "The way he entered some of these farms proves he has at least some basic ninja abilities. So now we are dealing with a missing nin. The trail he left at the first farm leads to the north, that's the border. So we have a missing nin from another country. He ran away from his pursuers but got wounded. Once he reached the land of fire he felt safe enough to stop here and heal up." "Correct," Guy said. "Now there is still one last piece to this puzzle. What do you assume his next move will be? How can we possibly know what he's planning based on what he stole? Sometimes the answer lies not in what you see, but in what you don't see." "Huh, idiot," Sasuke said while slapping Naruto. "He means that we shouldn't look at what he stole so far but rather at what he didn't steal yet. That's no reason to hit me, you bastard. Will you two stop fighting and focus on our mission here?" Hinata said while playing Peacekeeper again. The three genin looked at all the items that were stolen and tried to find the missing piece. "What didn't he steal yet?" Naruto pondered. "There is food, some clothes, basic medical supplies, but what is missing? Let's just think this over. He shows up wounded, so he needs food and medical supplies. He also needs fresh clothes and more bandages to keep healing. But he already has all of that, so what else do he need? Okay, let's continue. He is done healing and now he wants to. That's it. He hasn't left the area yet." "What do you mean, Naruto?" Hinata asked. "All he stole was stuff to keep him going for a few more days. He hasn't stolen anything you need for a long trip. That's his next target. He will strike at a general store next and take canned supplies alongside travel gear, and there is only one store in town that sells all of those." Sasuke suddenly realized. "So that means, well done, my dear students," Guy said. "You solved this puzzle. We are dealing with a runaway fugitive, possibly a prisoner, who was in need of medical help. And now that his wounds are almost healed he will make another run for it. But first he needs supplies, and for that he will have to break into the general store next. Possibly even this night. Well then, what are we waiting for? We should be guarding the store then. We do have some time left. He's not going to make a move when there are still people on the streets. But yes, we will keep an eye on the store. I'll talk to Takawara and see if he can help us." Later that night Team 7 was hiding on the rooftop of the building across the street from the store. They were taking turns keeping watch while the others were waiting nearby. So far nothing exciting has happened yet. But then again, it wasn't until now that the night truly began, when the last people left the streets to the confines of their home. Unbeknownst to them, they weren't the only ones watching the store. Situated on the other side, hiding under bushes, were three ninjas who also had a stake in capturing the one responsible for the recent attacks. "You sure this is the right store?" the eldest of the three and the one in charge asked. "Yes, sir. I checked the entire town and this is the only store in a 20-mile radius that sells all the stuff he will need to make another run." "And he will strike tonight?" "He will strike soon, sir. Might be tonight, might be tomorrow. But looking at the last hit he did, I can see he is almost healed enough to run away again." "Now listen up, you two," the commander said in a threatening voice. "This is our last chance. We cannot risk it to go deeper into Konoha territory. If you screw this up and he manages to escape, I will personally make sure you regret the day you were born. Do I make myself clear?" The two younger ninjas gulped at the threat and responded with a "yes, sir," before one of them dared ask the question that was on their lips. "And what about that team from Konoha, sir? They arrived yesterday evening and made quite a show today. Any chance they'll pose a problem? He snorted at that. Those poor excuses for shinobi? All they did was parade around town and draw attention to themselves. Hell, that Jonin was wearing green spandex for crying out loud. But in the off chance that they do stumble upon the scene tonight, the orders are clear. No witnesses, got it? The two nodded and looked back at the store. I think I see someone coming. You think it's him? The captain looked at the cloaked figure slowly approaching the store. That's him, all right. We wait till he's inside the store and then go in from the back. Get ready, Guy-sensei, we have company, Hinata said, at which point the rest of Team 7 stood up as well and looked at the figure that was approaching the store. Very sloppy, Guy remarked. I doubt he had proper ninja training. That makes our job easier. We wait till he's inside and then move in from the front. Get in position. The cloaked figure carefully approached the store and looked around to see if the coast was clear. When he couldn't spot anyone, he quickly kicked a side door in with one kick and went inside to get the equipment he needed. When he went inside, Guy ordered Team 7 to go in after him, and soon they entered the store at the front to sneak up on him. At the same time, 3 other ninjas approached the store from the back and entered the warehouse from the other side. Hinata, do you see him? Asked Guy. Hinata activated her Byakugan and looked around. Yes, he's over there. He hasn't seen us yet, she whispered. Wait. There are 3 other people that entered the store just now from the other side. They are approaching him too. They are definitely ninjas, though they don't have any headband on. Damn, that must be the team that was tracking him down earlier. Guy reasoned. What do we do now, sensei? For now we wait and see. Since we don't know what's going on between them, we can't be sure which side to take. We could be helping a dangerous prisoner escape as well help in a kidnapping. Both are equally possible without the right context. The 3 genin nodded and carefully went closer to their target to see what would happen and to intervene if Guy gave the signal. Meanwhile, the cloaked figure moved through the store looking for all the equipment he needed when the captain of the enemy squad made his appearance. Going somewhere? He asked the startled man. What? You didn't think you could escape that easily, did you? Lord Orochimaru has requested an audience, so you better don't disappoint him, he said with a smirk as his 2 subordinates appeared from the other side to surround their target. But suddenly the cloaked man decided to make a run for it, and he turned to the smallest of his 3 would-be captors and swatted him away before making a dash towards the nearest wall. Without stopping, he punched through the wall with a giant deformed-looking arm and made his way outside. After him. The enemy captain ordered, don't let him escape. Orochimaru. I don't know what that snake is up to, but I now know which side to take. Guy thought before addressing his team. All right, time to move? I'll take their leader since he looks like a jonin. Hinata, you take the one on the left with that weird device on his arm, and Sasuke the one on the right. Naruto, you go and secure our prisoner. Now move out. Using the newly made whole, Team 7 quickly followed their respective targets. Outside they saw that the battle had already erupted and the outnumbered fugitive was losing fast to the 3 ninja. Wasting no time, they each went after their designated target, hoping to catch him by surprise and take him out fast before they really had a chance to fight back. Guy went straight for the leader of the 3 and the only one at jonin level. As the captain was about to launch a fireball at the still cloaked fugitive, Guy used a body flicker to appear before him and hit the man hard in his jaw, causing him to lose focus and slide back several feet. So the ninjas from Konoha make an appearance after all. The man glared while rubbing his jaw. Guess even a weirdo like yourself has at least some skill. I am Mato Guy, the green beast of Konoha. Guy shouted while assuming his strong fist stance. And you 3 are under arrest for unlawfully entering the land of fire and causing problems to its citizens. Surrender now or I will be forced to use violence. Looks like we have ourselves a comedian. The enemy captain smirked. All right, big guy, let's dance. With that, he jumped back and flew through several hand seals fire style. Fire Dragon Jutsu. A giant dragon made of flames erupted from his mouth and flew towards Guy, who could do nothing but dodge or get burned to a crisp. While Guy kept avoiding the captain's fire jutsu, Hinata found herself facing her own opponent. A young man, obviously still a genin, who attacked using a weird device on his arm that transmitted sound waves and made her feel nauseated. Luckily, she did catch him by surprise at first and landed a few hits with her gentle fist before he could use the device, and she was forced to back away. Using her Byakugan, she noticed that she at least succeeded in closing several of his main tenketsu, which would make performing jutsus considerably harder for him. Seeing as she couldn't get closer to her opponent without getting caught in the seemingly undodgeable sound attack, she tried another method. Water style, water whip. Hinata yelled out while a whip made of water shot from her hands and encircled the weird device on the genin's arm. God, you know. I don't think so. The genin said, don't you people know that water transmits sound waves just fine? As he said that, he used his device again, and the whip around it dissolved back into water. Hinata cursed under her breath and tried coming up with another plan while she kept out of the way of yet another sound attack. She looked around and noticed Sasuke and his opponent were engaged as well. Sasuke used his fire attacks, but his opponent kept dodging them and tried to get in close, only for Sasuke to keep his distance and throw in a genjutsu from time to time. It looks like he was facing a taijutsu specialist, though from the looks of it not one that would give her many problems. Wait a minute, she suddenly thought, I think I know what to do. Now to try and get Sasuke on board with this plan. While everyone was distracted, Naruto hurried over to the unconscious man on the ground and tried to get him out of there. He couldn't risk a stray fire attack hitting him after all. After putting some distance between himself and the battlefield, he started treating the unconscious man. He removed the heavy cloak to take a good look at him. The man was around his age, but he was huge. Even now, he was at least 2 heads bigger than him. He wondered when he would finally get his growth spurt. Life just isn't fair, he thought. He also noticed that the man had bright orange hair and some weird markings on his body. At first he thought it was a tattoo, but they seemed to be changing ever so slightly, as if they were a part of himself. Must be a bloodline, he thought. Is that why these other guys want him? To steal his abilities for themselves? Seeing that he didn't seem to have any wounds, besides some old ones which were bandaged and healed nicely, he decided to wake him up and talk to him. Hey there, are you okay? What's your name? Naruto asked while trying to shake the man awake. In Kami's name, stand still. Sasuke cursed when his opponent dodged yet another fireball and then ran straight at him again, forcing him to move out of the way. At this rate he was going nowhere fast, and he didn't trust his opponent in close combat. He saw the guy had an ace up his sleeve and he didn't want to face him until he knew what it was. Still, I'd better think of something before I run out of chakra, he thought. Then he noticed Hinata approaching him. Sasuke, prepare for tactic number 3. She yelled at him. Tactic number 3? Of course, that'll work out just fine. He smirked and started running towards Hinata with his opponent in tow. When Sasuke and Hinata reached each other in the middle, they each ran past their teammate and headed towards the other's opponent, effectively switching targets. It was a tactic Guy taught them in case they faced an opponent that was strong against them but would be ideal for a comrade, especially since most people are too focused on just their opponent and don't expect to suddenly switch targets in the middle of a battle. And indeed, the genin with the sound amplifier on his arm was still focused on Hinata and hardly noticed that Sasuke started going through hand seals. When he finally realized his mistake, he just barely managed to dodge the barrage of fireballs Sasuke had sent his way. Had he reacted half a second later, he would have been killed already. Now he escaped with minor burns. Sasuke didn't waste time, however, and launched forward to quickly place an explosive tag on the weird sound device while the genin was still recovering. I got you, no, he said while activating the tag, blowing up the device. When the smoke cleared, the enemy ninja was dead and completely unrecognizable from the blast. Damn, these new explosive tags in the dragon's farm are awesome. He whistled through his teeth. Sure, 2,000 Ryo for a pack of 10 isn't cheap, but the extra power is worth it. Hinata's opponent didn't lose sight of his surroundings, however, and noticed that the 2 leaf ninjas switched positions. So I'm fighting the girl now? He said. I hope you won't run away all the time, at least. I won't, was all Hinata said before moving towards him and beginning her assault. After the first few hits, she realized why her opponent acted cocky. His skin felt like hitting a brick wall, and not even Guy would have an easy time damaging his defenses without going all out. So how do you like my iron wall defense? He asked cockily. Your punches aren't that hard to begin with, but compared to my skin they are completely useless. Nobody has ever beaten me in a taijutsu battle. Hinata only smiled while she continued her assault. She used her speed and agility to dodge his punches and kept on hitting him repeatedly in various parts all over his body, eventually ending her combo with a palm strike in his chest, forcing her opponent to fall on his knees and cough up blood. But how? He asked with wide eyes. You couldn't have damaged my iron wall so easily. I didn't have to, she explained. The gentle fist attacks the internal organs, bypassing any outer defenses completely. Your iron wall might as well have not been there. I see, it looks like my defense wasn't absolute after all. With that, he fell down and closed his eyes for good. Meanwhile, Guy was still locked in combat with the Jonin, who turned out to be quite proficient with fire attacks. He had tried to move in closer several times, but he never gotten in more than a few hits before he was forced to move away again. He noticed that the other battles had stopped and looked back at his students. He was relieved to see that both of them had won their battles and saw Hinata healing some of Sasuke's wounds which he had suffered from the earlier explosion. It looks like my worthless team couldn't even finish off some genin, the captain said in disgust, looking at his defeated comrades. At least their sacrifice allows me to do the job for them. He went through several hand seals and launched a massive fireball at Sasuke and Hinata's backfire style. Grand Fireball. Guy realized the danger and acted immediately by opening the inner gates. First gate, open! He shouted and literally disappeared from view in pure speed. He reappeared in the path of the fireball and swatted it away with the air pressure from his attacks. That was a most unyouthful attack, he said to the captain. I cannot forgive you for trying to kill my students. Prepare to die. Second gate, open! With that, he disappeared again, and before the captain realized what was going on, Guy launched him upwards with a bone-shattering kick right in his now broken jaw. Guy appeared behind him and grabbed his body in a full Nelson hidden leaf style. Primary Lotus, he shouted while dropping the captain head first towards the ground. Primary what now? Were the last words that went through the captain's head before he crashed into the ground and broke his neck on impact. After checking on Hinata and Sasuke, Guy went through the captain's pouch and found what he was looking for, a scroll with the info on the escaped prisoner and their supposed monster. Let's see what we have here. Guy read from the scroll. Escaped prisoner male, his name is Yugo, apparently aha. He possesses a rare bloodline that allows him to absorb natural energy involuntarily. He naturally has a calm nature, however sudden surges in natural energy can overpower his senses and cause him to go berserk. He is known to have lost control several times and killed people before. He approached Orochimaru on his own volition, hoping the Sannin could help him. Instead, he was used for experiments to better understand the way his clan accesses natural energy. That is horrible, Hinata said, remembering the time she got kidnapped by Kumo agents for her bloodline. Indeed it is. Guy replied, it is our duty to help him, we better go find Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto was having his own set of problems. After he managed to awaken Yugo, the guy went insane. Those black marks had spread all over his body, and the giant guy started attacking him mercilessly. I'm going to kill you! He screamed, I'm going to kill everybody. Great, you try to help someone and he turns out to be a crazy psychopath that wants to kill everybody. Naruto thought while dodging and blocking the giant's attacks. Wind style, great storm, Naruto said while a focused storm of wind blew relentlessly at the incoming juggernaut. For a second it seemed to hold him, but then his body mutated again, and several jet-like appendages sprouted on his back and started shooting beams of pure chakra, giving him a speed boost to break through the windstorm. When he got in close, his arm mutated again to form a piston, which he used to increase his attack power. Naruto held up his combat gloves and focused chakra into them to harden the material, and then held them in front of him to form a makeshift solid steel shield. The gloves managed to hold back the mutated punch, and Naruto threw a few punches of himself at Yugo's face before his opponent threw him away. After falling down on the ground hard, Naruto tried collecting his thoughts on how to defeat the berserker. I can't win with strength alone, and even my wind techniques aren't powerful enough to damage him. Also, I have a feeling he hasn't really shown me all the power he has at this point, and I don't want to find out just what he can do. He rolled out of the way to dodge an incoming Yugo who shattered the ground he just stood on. I suppose I can hit him with the claws or the hidden blade, but I don't want to kill him. He is a victim after all. He ducked under Yugo's arms, which mutated again and now resembled scythes, while punching him in the stomach several times. At this rate, it's just a matter of time before he gets in a lucky shot and decapitates me. He narrowly avoided another swipe from the sidearms and kicked him in the jaw hard, though it seemed to only enrage him further. A paralyzing tag would work, but I don't have any prepared. I do have some explosive tags left though. He lifted both combat gloves in their hardened state to stop an axe kick from Yugo, but it still launched him away with the sheer power behind it. Looks like I don't have a choice then. A paralyzing tag it is. He created 2 shadow clones that immediately moved out of the way and started working on a new paralyzing tag. Luckily, he also gotten quite good at making them, and he figured all he had to do was keep the man busy for no more than 2 minutes whilst his clones worked on the tag. They're not good for combat, with them expelling in one hit and all, but they are handy sometimes if you need an extra pair of hands, he thought to himself. Naruto spent the next 2 minutes dodging Yugo's attacks and throwing some of his own at the giant, though they didn't seem to slow him down in his enraged state. When one of his clones dispelled to let him know the tag was finished, he set his plan in motion. He grabbed 2 explosive tags from his pouch and placed them on the ground before him. Then he captured Yugo's attention by using an air bullet. When the giant ran at him to clobber him to death, he let the tags explode to blind him with the dirt that sprung up. He moved in to punch him in the face as hard as he could, and when Yugo turned to take his revenge, the second clone appeared from behind him and placed the tag between his shoulder blades, paralyzing him and making him lose consciousness at last. He noticed that the dark spots retreated and his face looked normal again. I'm glad that is over. If I didn't study seals, I doubt I would have won that battle, Naruto said in relief. Anyway, it's time to take this big guy back home. Guy-sensei must be waiting for us. Naruto and the clone picked up Yugo's body and carried him back to their rendezvous point. They're useless in combat, but damn it, I sure love shadow clones, he said with a smile. Once the battle was over and Team Guy got back to their chambers, they started the interrogation of Yugo. Naruto slowly lowered the intensity of the seal he used until Yugo was awake enough to answer the questions but still adequately sedated to stop him from going berserk again. They learned that Yugo came from a clan in Kirigakure that was one of the first victims of their bloodline purge. Yugo miraculously escaped that day and ended up being adopted by a surrogate family that didn't know he had a bloodline. But without the specialized training to help him master and control the raw emotions that his ability generated as a side effect, he easily became overwhelmed and had ended up killing his caretakers in a state of bloodlust that put him on Yagura's radar. After fleeing the land of water, he tried to get help and had ended up being found by Orochimaru. Being unaware that the Sannin had betrayed Konoha, he trusted him to find a way to help him control his powers, but he soon found himself a prisoner instead. Yugo explained that the Snake Nin was already working on a way to recreate his clan's abilities in a seal he could place on his henchmen to make them stronger. But his own attempts were too unstable to be of use and the death rate was too high to be a feasible weapon. That's why Orochimaru experimented on him to try and find ways to stabilize his seal and make it safer for use. However, 1 month ago he managed to escape when a new guard had underestimated his strength and thought he wasn't a threat. Using his bloodline, he killed the guard and made a run for it. By the time he had regained his senses, he found himself wounded from the fight and on the run with the team of 3 ninja on his tail. Knowing he had little choice, he ran for the nearest border, the land of fire. and the rest of the story is known. After hearing this story, Guy decided that Yugo was not to be blamed for his actions, and he wanted to bring him back to Konoha so he could finally receive the treatment he had needed all this time. However, they still needed to handle the mayor, who was insistent that Yugo needed to be tried instead, seeing as he was the criminal responsible for the break-ins. His argument was that he paid good money for Konoha to see justice done, and the people of his town wouldn't be satisfied with letting him go, no matter what sob story he had. Guy countered by pointing out that the standard contract he signed had a clause that says Konoha reserved all rights towards military assets, which included people with bloodlines, and that the original mission parameters only hired them to solve the crimes and put a stop to them, and never spoke of making sure the criminal was actually tried in his courtroom. Eventually, they came to an agreement. In exchange for a 20% discount on his contract, the mayor would put all the blame on the 3 dead ninja that were the talk of the town. After all, having a shinobi battle in the merchants' district tends to be noticed, and he would let Yugo slip under the radar since Naruto's battle took place in a deserted field where nobody saw them. Guy was appalled by this most unyouthful behavior but didn't press any further. Getting Yugo safe to Konoha was more important than dealing with this haggling bastard. And so Team Guy left in the dead of night, to make sure nobody of the town saw the extra person that ran alongside them. Hokage's office, 1 week later. Hokage-sama, I am here with the report on Yugo. Ibiki, come in, said the elderly man. So what did you find out? We looked into his clan, and it seems they were another victim of Yagura's insane crusade. It's only because he wasn't in Kiri when they struck that he survived. There are no other known survivors, or if they exist, they are in hiding and won't come out anytime soon. I see. I will inform the boy myself. And what about my old student? What part did he play in all of this? It seems that Yugo's bloodline has several similarities with the curse seal he designed and put on Enko. Based on the boy's testimony about the nature of the test, it seems Orochimaru tried to stabilize his own design to increase the odds of success. Did he succeed? That's hard to say based on the boy's vague descriptions. But it looks like the tests were still going on when he fled, so it would appear that he still needed him. My guess is that he was still working on it, and hasn't succeeded yet. I hope you are correct. Did he know the location of the lab he was imprisoned in? From what he told me, there were several labs, and they kept moving him around every few weeks. While he didn't know where he was exactly, he did give a pretty good description of the environment that allowed our trackers to narrow things down a lot. Kakashi has sent several teams of Anbu to investigate the different possibilities. Hopefully one of them will find something that could help us smoke this snake out. And what about the boy himself? Do you think we can find a place for him in our forces? From Naruto's report, it's clear the boy is quite strong. But he hasn't received a day of proper training in his life, and that is holding him back for the moment. And it's already too late to send him through the academy at his age. No, the academy wouldn't be a good idea. But perhaps a jonin can apprentice him and give him a crash course in being a shinobi? It's not like there is nothing to work with, he just needs to be roughed around the edges a little to make a great assault-type ninja. Enko did always wanted a team, but until now the council has blocked her application every year because of her former sensei. Yes, if it were up to me, I'd let her try out a team immediately. Everyone can see that Enko is nothing like my old student, if only the civilian council would give her a fair chance. But then again, what are you thinking, Lord Hokage? Technically apprenticeships don't count as being a regular jonin sensei. Therefore this is purely a shinobi matter, and the decision rests with me. It's not really a team, but I think Enko can finally become a sensei after all, the Hokage said with a smile. Meanwhile, in Naruto's room, Hey Naruto, can I speak with you for a moment? Sure thing, Kakashi-sensei, said Naruto as he held his door open for the commander of Anbu to enter his apartment. Naruto, I'm not your sensei anymore. Stop calling me that. You might not be my team leader anymore, but you will always be one of my senseis. Anyway, what are you here for? Well, I read the report of your latest mission and I have some questions about things I didn't really understood. Especially about the way you captured this Yugo. Could you tell me some more about that? Well, since we had to detain him for questioning, I had to capture him alive, so I used a paralysis tag to subdue him. Yes, the report said you made a tag during the fight? Yes, I ran out of paralysis tags, so I made a shadow clone to make a new one while I kept him busy. Then after a minute or two the clone stepped back in and used it on him, Naruto said with a smile. Let me get this straight. You made a clone, a shadow clone, a shadow clone. Yes, and while you two were still in the middle of a fight, this clone stepped aside and started working on a seal? Yes. For 2 whole minutes? That's how long it takes to make a paralysis tag. Huh, Kakashi, is something wrong? Is something wrong? Is something wrong? He asks. Kami. Naruto, that plan is just crazy, Kakashi said incredulously. It worked fine. What's wrong with it? You were lucky that Yugo was in a berserker state at the time you fought, because there is no way in hell that plan would have worked in any other situation. Real opponents do not just let a clone sit at the side for 2 minutes creating seals. Any real opponent would have seen through the diversion immediately, and would have went straight for the clone. Oh yeah, Naruto said while scratching the back of his head and giving Kakashi a grin. I guess I got lucky, huh? Naruto, this is not a laughing matter, Kakashi said sternly. What did I teach you about luck? Being lucky will save you once, being prepared will save you every day. Naruto repeated one of the lessons the ANBU drilled in his head. Exactly, therefore it is crucial that we prepare you properly for these types of missions. I talked it over with Guy and together we found just the jutsu you need to help you out when you ever need to detain a person again without using lethal force. Really? A new jutsu? That sounds awesome. What is it, Kakashi-sensei? You are going to like this one, Kakashi said while taking a black scroll with the Uzumaki symbol on it from one of the pouches in his flak jacket. This jutsu actually belonged to your mother, and according to what your dad told me, it helped her greatly in controlling the Kyuubi's chakra. Really? That seems great. What is it, Kakashi-sensei? They are called chakra chains, and the technique allows the user to sprout chains made of chakra from his body, which can be used to hold and detain opponents in a non-lethal way. They also allow you to drain the chakra from your opponent and absorb it. This second function is what allowed her to control the Kyuubi's chakra for herself. Oh man, I can't wait to test these things out. Can you show me how it's done now, Kakashi-sensei? No, I'm afraid I can't do that. What? Why not? Because I don't know the technique myself. See, while the technique is not a bloodline, it is a clan-specific technique much like the Naruto's shadow manipulation or the Yamanaka's mind jutsus. And one of Konoha's laws specifically states that any outsider is forbidden from using these techniques. See, a lot of clans were wary to be sharing their techniques in a village with the Uchiha and their Sharingan eyes. Therefore, the founding chapter of Konoha protects certain techniques and copyrights them, so to speak. And even though I am not an Uchiha myself, I do possess a Sharingan, thus I am bound by the same laws. So then why am I allowed to learn it then? Because you are an Uzumaki and are therefore allowed to learn your own clan techniques, of course. You mean this is one of the Uzumaki clan's certified techniques? Naruto said excitedly. Yes, didn't you read all of those scrolls I gave you when you graduated? I skimmed them, Naruto said sheepishly. Kakashi sighed at his unofficial apprentice's ways anyway. You better start training on those chains. Once you are able to summon them without hand signs, Guy will see how they can be integrated in your fighting style. I will, Kakashi-sensei. I'm looking forward to it, the ANBU commander said with one of his eye smiles. During the course of the following months, Naruto spent his time in between missions training with the chakra chains technique until he could spawn them from his arms without seals. He was still far from using the more advanced techniques like using them to create a barrier or manipulating multiple ones at the same time, but the simple chains could be easily used by the end of the first month. After working it over with Guy, the taijutsu expert devised a way to integrate them into his fighting style, and Naruto quickly got the hang of it. Even Hinata, who always had been the expert in close combat, found the chains pretty hard to deal with, since once you got caught they started draining chakra and you had to be fast in your escape or risk chakra exhaustion. Eventually the ANBU teams that scouted the possible locations of Orochimaru's bases returned, and the next day Teams 7 and 9 were summoned in the Hokage's office for their next mission. I'll get right to the point, Kakashi said to the gathered teams and the Hokage. These last few months the ANBU scouted several of the locations we derived from Yugo's testimony. And while most places turned out to be dead ends or there was a base but it had been deserted for a while, we did find 2 bases that are still in operation. You found my old student's location? Asked the Hokage. That's a negative, sir. Orochimaru himself didn't show up at either location, but we did find signs that the bases are in use. So he might still be running some of his experiments there. Yugo mentioned he saw other prisoners from Kiri from time to time. Maybe some of them are in one of these bases and we could save them. There are more innocent people being experimented upon? That is most unyouthful. We must liberate them at once and restore their youthful spirits, exclaimed the always enthusiastic sensei of Team 7. Take it easy, Guy, said the Hokage as he took a scroll from the desk and tossed it to Hate. Now on to the actual mission. The ANBU reported that one of the bases houses the prisoners and is heavily defended with several known Jonin-level ninja, while the other is more of a smaller research site that has only a few grunts guarding it. Therefore we are going to split the teams up a little differently. What do you mean, Lord Hokage? Asked Hate. I mean that the prison site is too dangerous for genin to infiltrate. Therefore you, alongside Guy and the initial ANBU squad, will go there. The research site shouldn't be too much of a problem, so your genin squads will handle it alone. Understood, Lord Hokage. Cough cough, we will carry out our mission. 2 weeks later, at the outskirts of Orochimaru's base, 2 a.m., the 6 genin stood together and went over the plan one final time. Each of them was ordered to forego their usual attire in favor of a pitch-black outfit with a face mask and a hood to make sure they were as stealthy as possible. Now remember, this is a stealth mission, said Niji, who, as Rookie of the Year, was appointed as team leader. That means no flashy moves, no explosions, and try to take the guards out silently and from behind. Got it? Everyone nodded that they understood. Good, then move out. Team 7 will enter from the west entrance, and we will go in from the north. 5 minutes later, Hinata, Sasuke, and Naruto were in position looking down at their targets. Hidden inside an inconspicuous-looking shack was a trapdoor towards the base. Hinata used her Byakugan to look at the guards outside. I see 3 guards in total. 2 are outside talking to each other, and the other one is inside the shack taking a nap. I'll capture them in an illusion, but if they are decently trained then it won't take long for them to notice and break free. So you have about 10 seconds to go in and silence them, Sasuke said while Naruto and Hinata nodded. Once the guards were captured in Sasuke's illusion, Naruto and Hinata moved out. Hinata appeared by the guard on the left, and used her gentle fist to strike his heart, killing him instantly. Naruto meanwhile appeared behind the guard on the right, and used the hidden blade on his combat gloves to pierce through the guard's armor and straight into his inner organs. Unfortunately, he missed his heart, and the guard wasn't dead yet. He tried to scream out in pain, but Naruto raised his other arm and a chain sprouted from his wrist to wrap around the guard's throat and stop the screaming. After struggling for several seconds, the guard finally succumbed to his injuries and passed away. The guard inside is still sleeping, Hinata confirmed. She silently went towards him, and another precise strike at his heart made sure he would never wake up again. That was that. Now let's go inside, said Sasuke as he approached the hidden trapdoor. Wait, said Naruto as he stopped him. There is a seal hidden on the lock over there, while pointing at a small blotch of ink that most people would just glance over. Any idea what it does? It seems to be a simple alarm seal that will alert our presence to the entire base unless a specific deactivation seal is presented. Check the guards. One of them should have the counter seal on him. After checking the 3 dead guards, Naruto found the seal he was looking for tattooed on the guard's left hand. I'm sorry, buddy, but I'm going to need this more than you do right now, he said after using his blade to cut off the guard's hand and used the seal to safely deactivate the trapdoor. We better alert Neji Nezen about this seal. Hinata said their entrance will probably have one too, and it wouldn't do if they missed theirs and alerted anyone anyway. Good idea, I'll contact them now, said Sasuke, who was wearing the team's radio round his neck. He pushed a button and started talking into the microphone. Team 9, do you copy? Over. This is Team 9, we hear you loud and clear. Tenten's voice sounded from the radio. What is your situation? Over. We dealt with the guards on our side and discovered a seal hidden on the trapdoor. If you find a cross-like insignia on the trapdoor, you need to deactivate it with a counter seal one of the guards should be carrying. Over. Good thing you contacted us, we almost missed it. Hang on a minute. Roger, send a message once you are ready to enter from your side. Over. After about a minute of silence, the radio croaked again. Team 9 is ready to commence. We found the counter seal and have successfully opened the trapdoor on our side. Get ready to begin the operation. Both teams entered the base simultaneously and started their mission. Using their respective Byakugan user as a guide, they easily evaded the few patrolling guards of the night shift and silently took them out one by one using the element of surprise. As they went deeper underground into the base, they searched every small lab or storage room they entered and sealed away all the documents they encountered for the intelligence division to analyze later. They also placed several high-grade explosive tags on key locations to completely destroy the base once they were out. Naruto accidentally ruined one of these tags and decided that since it was now worthless, he might as well keep it to study later. Hinata and Sasuke both rolled their eyes at his bad acting but didn't comment either way. 3 hours, 50 dead guards, 200 activated explosive tags and 1,000 sealed away documents later, both teams once again met up at the lowest level of the base. Neji estimated that they must be about 200 meters underground at that point, since he could barely see the surface with his Byakugan at maximum range. There was now only one door left. One of the guards they killed earlier was carrying a master key, so getting in wasn't a problem. Yet they decided to not take unnecessary risks and play this one by the book. Do you see anything behind the door? Neji and Hinata used their all-seeing eyes to look beyond the steel door and into the room behind it. It's another laboratory of sorts. There is no guard or doctor in the room, but I do see a large concentration of chakra in one of the tubes in the back. Any idea what it is? It's hard to tell. It looks like some sort of fluid, but it has a chakra network. I've never seen anything like it. Well, we're not going to find out by standing here. Let's go inside. The 6 ninjas opened the door of the lab and started searching the place for valuables. Naruto and Neji went straight to the back where a giant canister filled with water was placed against the wall. So this is where the chakra is coming from? Asked Naruto. Yes, replied Neji while studying the canister and its context with his Byakugan. Why would they lace the water with chakra though? What use could that have? They didn't lace the water with chakra. It appears that the water has its own internal chakra source, almost as if it were alive. I've never seen anything like it. Neji took a closer look and suddenly noticed something. Hey, there appears to be a seal here. Do you know what it does? Naruto looked at the small seal that was placed onto the canister and recognized it immediately. Yes, this is a standard paralysis seal. It is used to keep prisoners sedated. But why would they put such a seal on water? That makes no sense. That's because it's not water. Lee's voice suddenly interrupted their conversation. What do you mean, it's not water? It sure looks like water to me. Take a look at these documents the scientists were working on, the swordsman said while handing him a scroll he found a few minutes earlier. All of these documents are about the Hozuki clan. It's another one of the bloodline clans from Kiri. According to this, they were researching something called the hydrification technique. It's a bloodline that allows them to literally turn parts of their body into water. Water? So that means that this canister isn't water at all. Neji finished the sentence for him. If this is actually a living person, then that explains why there is a chakra source in the water. So what do we do with him? Lee asked. We wake him up, Naruto said without hesitation. I don't know if that is such a good idea though. The Hozuki clan weren't exactly allies, I didn't say we should trust him immediately, but we can't let him stay here when we are going to blow up this whole place. Besides, now that Kiri no longer welcomes bloodlines, he is bound to reevaluate his loyalties. Konoha won't sound so bad to him now, I bet. Seeing as the other two weren't convinced, he decided to compromise. Look, how about this? We get him out of here and bring him back for the Hokage to decide what to do with him. Konoha could always use a powerful clan like the Hozuki. That's not a bad idea, let's do that. Niji decided, and so half an hour later the 6 genin stood on the hill overlooking the base with the still unconscious man they just rescued on Lee's back. Naruto used the hand seals Kakashi showed him and detonated all the explosive tags they placed around the base, simultaneously resulting in a giant tremor as the entire underground structure collapsed. Afterwards they went back to the meeting spot where their senseis would be waiting for them after they finished their own mission. Hokage's office, mission debriefing. So Hate, I take it your mission wasn't a success? Asked the Hokage. No sir, by the time we arrived at the base it was already abandoned. We went inside to look for clues they might have left behind, but it seems they were very thorough. We didn't find anything. I see, that's too bad. But if you don't mind me asking, where is Guy? Naruto stepped forward with an embarrassed look on his face and explained their sensei's weird behavior. Guy sensei was so upset about failing his mission that he is running 300 laps around Konoha on his hands. He should be done with that shortly. So anyway, Kakashi said to break the uneasy silence that had fallen over the room, your base wasn't abandoned yet, am I correct? Indeed, Kakashi-sama, said Niji. Our base was still in operation when we broke in. Together we have secured over 1,000 scrolls and documents with various research on it. It is currently being looked at by the Intelligence Division. We also managed to liberate one prisoner, another bloodline user being experimented upon. Yes sir, he is a member of the Hozuki clan. When we found him he was in a bad shape. He is currently in the hospital being treated from severe chakra exhaustion and other signs of malnourishment. But he seems to recover quite well and Ibiki is talking to him as we speak. Very well, I will hear from him soon then. Anything else to report? No sir, after rescuing the prisoner we blew up the base and made our way to the meeting point. Alright then. You are dismissed. The payments for the mission will be deposited in your bank accounts as usual. Everyone gave a small bow and left, leaving only the Hokage and Kakashi behind. They handled that mission very well, don't you think so, Kakashi? Yes sir. They grew a lot this past year. I still don't understand why Guy and Hate didn't sign them up for the Chunin exams. I believe they were ready for it. Knowing Guy, he probably likes to make sure all of them were absolutely ready. He isn't the type to sign them up just for trying or to give himself a holiday, like some teachers do. I'm sure he will let them participate next time when it's being held in Konoha. And when he does, I have a feeling they will make Chunin on their first try. And Hate's team? I don't know. He probably didn't want to be the only one who sent a rookie team. Kakashi shrugged. Good, something else now. As you know, the academy will have another batch of graduates ready next week. Do you still think Mizuki will be up to something? We found his name in one of the scrolls we took from Orochimaru. Apparently he contacted him 3 months ago. He promised he could get the Forbidden Scroll in exchange for power. He plans on framing some academy student while he runs off with the scroll. Do we know who? No, he hasn't given any specifics. At this point it could be anybody. Without knowing the specifics it'll be hard to gather the evidence to arrest him. Maybe we can force his hand towards a specific student. The Hokage pondered while handing Kakashi a file. Kakashi read the file and pondered about its contents. You think it will work? Mizuki never did manage to let go of the past. This will be a target he can't refuse if we set things up right. Now all we have to do is convince him to play along, Kakashi said while looking at the file. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mizuki was counting the seconds down in his head until he could finally send these brats in his class home. He hated working in the academy. Some people like Irika liked this job since it was low risk with set hours and a steady income, but he hated it with a passion. For one, it was a dead end for his ninja career, since being in the academy meant you were stuck there for at least a year without any chance for promotion to Jonin, or any chance to get exciting missions that look good on your record. And even amongst the other Chunin it was laughed at. It didn't pay nearly as good as doing a few B-rank missions, and you never had any interesting stories to tell or brag about. Also, he was a man of action, damn it. He wasn't meant to be stuck in a room with children trying for the 100th time to explain how a clone works. He was meant to be out on the field, fighting the enemy, protecting important documents, guarding nobles and rich merchants, maybe getting some action with a hot civilian woman you saved now and then. Those were the good old times, not babysitting brats. But at least it would all be over soon. One more week and his plan was ready to be put into action. He still couldn't believe how fast everything went. 3 months ago he was suddenly contacted by none other than Orochimaru himself. While most of his colleagues would have alerted the Hokage immediately, he sensed a golden opportunity instead. He always believed that Orochimaru was treated unfairly. Sure, there were some casualties to his methods, but didn't his research produce great results? Didn't he always found new jutsus or new methods to help them in the war where others failed? He thought Konoha had shunned one of their greatest geniuses too easily. Yes, 50 orphans died, but the one who lived inherited the first Hokage's wood style. The wood style. He single-handedly revived one of Konoha's greatest bloodlines that were lost to the village, and how do they repay him? They complain because some stupid orphans died in the process, and he is sentenced to death. Who cares about orphans anyway? You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, he always reasoned. And now Orochimaru, the Orochimaru, wanted him. He promised him power and a position of jonin in his private forces. How could he not agree to that? What did the Hokage promise him? Another year of teaching stupid spoiled civilian kids how to throw a kunai without killing themselves? Well, whoop-de-fucking-do, the choice was easy if you asked him. True, he had to give something in return, but he understood that. There is no such thing as a free meal, that's the way it works. In order to get what he was promised, he needed to steal Konoha's forbidden scroll. Now most people would consider this a suicide mission, but he knew better. After years of peace, the village got lax with their security. Especially the night of the graduation ceremony is an ideal time to strike. Most available jonin were obligated to be a part of the meeting where the teams were divided, and many of the retired shinobi would be joining in on the various celebrations since every team celebrated its own anniversary. After months of research and preparation, he found the location of the scroll, the list of ANBU on guard that night, the bare minimum, and the routes of their patrol. He planned that with good timing and decent skills, anyone, even a failed academy student, could realistically get their hands on the scroll. The tricky part was escaping with the scroll afterwards. In order to safely get away, he needed to reach the border with the land of Tea where he would meet his contact. But that was a 3-day trip no matter how you looked at it. He knew he was pretty good, too good to be stuck in this hellhole for certain, but he couldn't evade the ANBU and the tracking squads for 3 days while carrying the scroll on his back. He couldn't unless he had a sizable head start, that is. And for that he needed a distraction, or more specifically a scapegoat. He looked around the class looking for someone to take the fall while he made off with the scroll. By the time they figured out he was innocent, his trail would have hopefully gone cold already. Now the only question was, who will he pick? It needed to be someone that would cause a loud enough uproar to distract the village, so that would mean he couldn't just pick a random civilian kid, it needs to be a member of one of the clans. Luckily this year there were plenty to choose from. Irika, Mizuki, do you have a moment? He was suddenly disrupted from his thoughts and turned towards the man who called out to him. It was Ibaki Arame, the principal of the academy, alongside the Hokage himself. Putting on his mask and pretending he wasn't just planning on stealing the forbidden scroll, he followed Irika to the principal's office. 5 minutes later he was back on his way home and he couldn't believe his luck. The Hokage informed him that they recently had a new bloodline user in the village that wanted to join their forces. Since the kid had prior training, he was allowed to try the exam directly without spending time in the academy. Now what really interested him was learning that it was a member of the Hozuki clan. He remembered the stories of how his grandfather was killed by a Hozuki in the Second Shinobi War. True, he wasn't even born back then, but he still resented the clan for it, even if this kid couldn't have possibly been involved. But soon he would have his revenge since he now had the perfect scapegoat for his plan. Kami must be smiling on me, he thought. Cheers! All around the village people raised their cups and enjoyed the celebrations. For today was the day of the graduation, and it was a tradition in hidden villages to celebrate a team's anniversary on this day rather than the actual day and month a team was formed. As such, many teams were celebrating today, from the youngest genin teams who celebrated their first year to the veteran teams like the original Ino Shikucho team who had been together for several decades. Even the Hokage's old team, which according to the old man himself was actually formed in the winter, had come together earlier today to have a few drinks in celebration. As such, the security was at an all-time low with only the bare minimum of ANBU patrolling the walls and even less in internal positions like the Hokage Tower's storage room. In other words, it was perfect for someone to sneak inside and get a hold of village secrets that would have been infinitely better guarded on any other day. With that in mind, Mizuki had started his plan to steal the forbidden scroll from the Hokage Tower. Earlier today he had abused his position as teacher to make sure that the Hozuki kid had failed his graduation exam. Flashback. The written exam was made up of questions specifically selected to be about very precise parts of Konoha's history and traditions. The other students who were born and raised in Konoha had no problem with them. In fact, Sakura had once again scored a perfect 100, but to an outsider who had spent less than a week in the village it was impossible. His score of 40 was actually pretty good given the circumstances, but it wasn't enough. During the taijutsu exam he deliberately fought him a lot harder than he was supposed to. Yet he was careful enough to make it look like he held back. As a result, Irika barely passed him on that part, even though he had to admit the kid was easily as good as the Inuzuka if not better. And finally the ninjutsu part, which at this point had required a perfect score to pass, was also sabotaged by spiking his water bottle with an odorless and tasteless chakra-disrupting poison. He was surprised the kid managed to pull off a henge and a substitution under these circumstances, but the clone jutsu, which required very precise control, proved to be too much for him and Irika was forced to fail him. Afterwards it was as easy as approaching the kid and telling him Konoha had a make-up exam in case someone just had bad luck. He gave the kid specific orders to infiltrate the Hokage Tower and steal some scroll as part of a simulated mission. The kid's eyes filled with hope and he swallowed it all without question. Mizuki couldn't help but crack a smile as he saw him running towards his destination. And flashback. Now Mizuki was standing hidden outside the Hokage Tower, and he looked to see if his plan would work. After it became dark he finally noticed someone sneaking into the tower. Good, he thought, he is hiding very well. If I didn't know he would show up, I would have missed him completely. That means the Chunin on guard won't notice him until it's too late. With that, he turned around and went to a safe distance. No need to let himself be seen around the tower when it's being robbed after all. He walked around the streets a bit, joined a few of his colleagues in a drink or two, and congratulated a few of his students that passed him in their own celebrations. All part of keeping up the act and establishing an alibi. He couldn't care less about those stupid kids, and the sooner he could dump this place the better. All the while he kept himself ready for the real event later that night. Just a few more hours till everybody is heading home, and I can move unseen to our meeting point and get out of here. He smiled and raised his glass for another drink. Tea, of course. He couldn't afford to be drunk on sake tonight. Later that night, Naruto and Sasuke were walking back home after having spent the day celebrating at Hinata's house. Since the Hyuga compound was by far the largest of their 3 houses, Hayashi had invited them over. Niji had received a similar offer but had refused it, so Team 9 had gathered in one of the bars and restaurants to celebrate. Is not fair. Sasuke mumbled while seeking support on Naruto's shoulder. You drank more than me and you are JJ just fine. Naruto had indeed been drinking quite a lot that night, but since the Kyuubi broke the alcohol in his blood down before it had a chance to reach his brain, he was perfectly sober. The same couldn't be said for his 2 teammates though. This would be a night both of them would rather forget. Of course, as a good friend, it was his job to make sure they never did. He smiled as he thought back at everything that took place. 6 hours earlier, Naruto, Sasuke and Guy arrived at the Hyuga compound, each wearing their best clothes. Even Guy had changed out of his green jumpsuit for once, and wore a pretty nice suit. It was quite a shock to see him wearing decent clothes for once, and even the ever-stoic Kakashi lost his composure when he passed them in the hall. After a woman from the Branch family took their coats, and flirted with Guy a bit now that he actually looked decent, they were led to the main hall. Inside, Hinata was waiting for them wearing a very beautiful and obviously expensive dress. After that, Hayashi introduced them to his old teammates, Shiroi Yamanaka alongside his wife and some Inuzuka and her canine partner Kuramura. The dog was, as far as Hinata knew, the only animal that was ever allowed to walk freely inside the main house. Of course, the fact that the animal was properly trained, knew how to talk and had saved Hayashi's life several times on missions had a lot to do with that. After a small diner, the gathered guests started reminiscing about the past year and various memorable missions they did during their career, including a rather funny story about Shiroi once using his mind technique to take over Hayashi and making him strip to his underwear before entering the ladies' side of the hot springs. The latter was not amused and claimed he never quite recovered from the beating his father gave him that day. Around midnight there was some commotion when Niji returned covered in bruises and sporting a black eye. When asked what had happened, he simply responded that Lee is forbidden from drinking alcohol now, and went to his room to get some well-needed rest. As the night went on, Naruto drank from the sake without really paying attention at how much was supposed to be normal for a kid his age. He didn't realize that the alcohol in his blood was being purged faster than humanly possible, and that he should have been getting pretty drunk under normal circumstances. Sasuke and Hinata, who also never drank sake before, went along with Naruto, not realizing that they were fighting a battle they couldn't hope to win against the Jinchuriki. And so when Naruto was in the middle of describing their first real mission to Kyoku, it happened that Hinata suddenly fell face first on Sasuke's lap. As if that position wasn't embarrassing enough for the both of them, she started vomiting all over his clothes. While Naruto couldn't stop laughing and Sasuke desperately tried to get their female teammate to sit up again, Hayashi decided that it was better to put an end to the night. Before the words completely left his mouth, 2 maidens from the branch house seemed to appear out of nowhere, and gently got the heiress out of the room, washed her up, gave her an aspirin and put her to bed with a level of efficiency that betrayed that it wasn't the first time they had to clean up a member of the main house after a night of drinking. And so Naruto helped his not drunk, but just tired teammate to his flat and threw him in his bed in a much more crude way than Hinata was gently placed to sleep. Since Naruto wasn't tired yet and there was still plenty of activity in Konoha, he decided to go to Ichiraku's for a late night snack. Even though he ate a pretty healthy diet, which helped a lot with his growth as he was now amongst the tallest of his generation, he still had a soft spot for ramen and went to the ramen stand at least once a week for a short snack. Upon entering Ichiraku's, he saw Kiba and Choji eating several bowls of ramen with Shikamaru sitting next to them. A quick glance at their forehead protectors showed that they were amongst the ones lucky enough to pass the test and were now celebrating. He knew there was still a second test that would fail most of the ones who passed today, but he decided not to ruin their moment of glory. Besides, he had bet good money that the 3 of them alongside Shino would be one of the people that were going to pass, so he was feeling confident that he was looking at future colleagues of his. After congratulating them and ordering a beef ramen, he sat down, and they started catching up. Apparently Shino earned the title of Rookie of the Year ever since Naruto and Sasuke had already graduated a year sooner. They also mentioned that some new guy from Kiri tried graduating alongside them but that he failed. Tried graduating? Naruto thought to himself, I was pretty sure that guy we saved had been an active ninja for more than a year already. He said so himself when we visited him in the hospital. Why would the old man let him retake the exam again instead of just placing him on a team? And how did he end up failing in the first place? I know he is easily stronger than Kiba. Just when he was about to ask Kiba more, he noticed a sign for a silent alert, so he quickly apologized to his, not yet fully graduated, friends and went to the Hokage Tower to see if his village needed him. Upon entering the tower, he noticed that there were only a handful ninja there, mostly Jonin and Chunin, with him being the only genin. He guessed the majority was too drunk or too preoccupied to notice the silent signal. He quickly recognized his old academy teacher Mizuki and went over to ask what was going on. Mizuki couldn't believe his luck. First, he successfully fooled that stupid kid into stealing the scroll while he had an airtight alibi. Then after the kid pulled it off, the alarm went mostly unnoticed, so that the first response team was understaffed, and he could easily get the entire northern forest for himself to search instead of having to deal with several jonins. And finally the demon showed up and asked him what he needed to do. Unlike the rest of Konoha, he never let go of his hatred for the Kyuubi and its container. He always wanted revenge on that hellspawn for killing his older brother on that fateful night 13 years ago. Unfortunately, that demon managed to fool the Hokage with his trickery, and so he was heavily guarded during his youth, which meant downright attacking him wasn't an option. Even his second plan of gaining its trust and then sabotaging his exam failed when he pulled a fast one last year and did the exam earlier. By the time he noticed that he wasn't in class as he should be, he already had his headband on, and it was too late to do anything. He was almost ready to just let it go and focus on getting out of here, but now he was given a second chance to get his revenge, and by Kami he was going to take it. Convincing Naruto to join him so they could search together was easy. As the sole genin, he wasn't supposed to go out by himself on these types of emergencies, and generally Jonin didn't feel like babysitting a genin during such a mission. Therefore, as his old academy instructor, he had a valid excuse to team up with him. The others just assumed he was taking one for the team and were glad they weren't the one who had to drag a genin around, so nobody complained. Naruto realized he wasn't being taken seriously and that they just let him run alongside a chunin for show, but he knew better by now than to disobey an order from his superiors, and so he grudgingly went along with it. If nothing else, he could ask Mizuki about the exam and how good everyone did. A few minutes later, Naruto was scouting the area Mizuki assigned to him. He didn't really know who he was looking for, just that someone stole the forbidden scroll earlier that night. When he found out that such an important scroll was stolen that easily, he had some serious doubts about the security systems they used. Even with his still limited knowledge of seals, he could think of a few ways to protect such an important item way better. While he was pondering the different methods to secure items with seals, he couldn't help but shake the feeling he was being watched. If only Hinata-chan was here. She could have found any spies immediately with her Byakugan, he thought to himself. Perhaps I should learn some sort of censoring jutsu myself. It really shows that I don't have experience with that sort of thing if I always expect her to bail me out. I'll ask Guy about that next week. Just then his enhanced senses, another gift from his tenant, picked up a faint sound a few hundred meters further in the woods. He knew that was supposed to be Mizuki's part to investigate, but thinking it might be the thief, he sped up towards it anyway while taking care to remain hidden. He remembered Kakashi's words about striking from the shadows and didn't want to ruin his element of surprise. 2 minutes later he arrived at an open space in the forest. Taking care to remain hidden inside the foliage, he stealthily looked down at the source of the sound. His eyes went wide open with surprise when he found the thief sitting on the ground with the hidden scroll next to him. It appeared as if he looked bored and was waiting for someone else to arrive. In his boredom he had started throwing twigs, rocks and pineapples at the trees around him, thus creating the sound that lured him to this place. What the hell is going on here? Naruto wondered while he kept looking at the man below him. That looks like the guy we saved from Orochimaru. But why would he steal the scroll, and why does he look smaller than I remember him to be? Right then Naruto's train of thought was interrupted when he heard a familiar voice enter the clearing. Ah, Suigetsu, there you are, Mizuki said as he walked into the clearing. Suigetsu? But I thought the gears inside Naruto's mind were turning at a mile a minute while trying to make sense of what he saw. Ah, Mizuki-sensei. I was waiting for you. As you can see, I successfully got the scroll and none of the Chunin managed to see me. Is this good enough for graduating? The genin hopeful asked. Yes, you did a very good job indeed. Now hand over the scroll and I will give you what you deserve, Mizuki said with a smirk. Graduating? Test? Steal the scroll? Hand it over? Headband? Naruto slowly put all the pieces of the puzzle together and realized Mizuki was playing everyone for a fool. No! He shouted while jumping down. Don't hand over that scroll. Mizuki has lied to you. Mizuki cursed at how close he was but decided that he might as well play his cards now anyway. Yes, you idiot, Mizuki shouted. There is no make-up exam. I fooled you into stealing that scroll from me, and while